Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. We are live. It is Thursday, January 22nd. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I know we missed the Market Open yesterday. We are right back in action. Excited to be here. You know, this is how I start my day. This is how I get the day going. This is how we get the blood pumping. And so I'm happy to be here. And I'm not late, even though I probably started like 2 seconds before 8:46, but we're live. We're here on time. We have a lot to talk about, folks. We have had so much stuff happen over the past 24 hours. I was live on the Market Open yesterday and tried to recap a bunch of different things that went down over the past 24 hours since that market closed. We've had a variety of different things continue to happen that are, I think, relatively bullish, more than bearish. And so we're going to kind of go through some of these headlines that have come out. This is the third trading week of January. So next week is the last trading week. Next week is also starting tech earnings. I mean, we had Netflix this week that started it off. We also had a bunch of earnings this morning that we'll talk about. But next week we get Meta, Microsoft, Tesla, like we really start to see. And then the first week of February, you have a lot more earnings, Palantir, February 2nd. So we are heading into that cycle for earnings. And it's going to be very important to dissect how these companies can do, because ultimately, at least I think companies eventually get priced based on their earnings. And, you know, if they have good earnings, then hopefully that ends up helping expand those multiples that they have. ASTS right here, moving in the pre-market. That's up 7%. Space names coming back to life a little bit. Rocket Lab had a bit of an update last night on Neutron. That's why that stock is down 2%. It was down a little bit more. We'll talk about that. Amcor up another 2.28%. Robinhood's up 1.3%. Meta getting some love finally back to 630. Took 2 weeks to get back to 630, but fell all the way to 605. Actually fell to 600 at one point. Now it's 629. Intel down a little bit after an 11% day. They have earnings after the bell. We'll be talking about them. Amazon's up 1.3. Tesla's up 1.2. GameStop had the CEO buy 1 million shares over the past couple of days. That's up 3%. The S&P 500 pushing 690. Why are we pushing 690? Well, we've got some macro data that we'll talk about, which I think is relatively bullish for the market. And it seems like that's what's helping stocks. Google's up 2%. VG officially won their arbitration case. Shout out to Mr. Matt Money and Chris Patel. As per winning the arbitration case, that's not as big of an issue for them anymore. And that stock, after being up 6% yesterday, is up another 10%. I think the overnight markets, it got to like 1080. So when the market opens, maybe this one can continue to move higher. And even Netflix up 0.5% even after an earnings that wasn't necessarily the best. So we're going to get into a lot of macro data, a lot of these different headlines to discuss what's going on and see if we can actually end up for a green week in a week in which we thought might not be green based on the announcements we got on Saturday. We talked about the taco yesterday. We'll go deeper into that today. It does seem like the Greenland tariffs are not going to be that big of a deal, and we will discuss Trump's pivot that was on that. It is amazing being a UPS delivery person, as everyone continues to ask how I feel about it. For those that don't get the joke, just watch the market close from yesterday. You'll get the joke. But just like UPS is on time, I'm here on time every day to deliver the stock market news. Dude, some of you guys used like AI to make these UPS videos of me delivering stuff. Like, some of the stuff I couldn't believe last night. Like it was so quick to, as soon as the market closed out, there was like 5 different AI videos of me as a UPS driver. I mean, it's funny, but it's like, goodness, dude. You guys are quick with this stuff. I'm embracing it. I'm just embracing it at this point. Dude hired new joke writers. Oh my gosh, dude. I didn't think wearing that jacket would make me a UPS driver, but I guess that's the new joke. Show one of the videos. All right, I'll show one of them real quick. Some of this stuff is just like, I don't know what you guys are prompting into Nano Banana or whatever the hell you guys are doing. Look at this. Also, dude, what is, okay, everyone's going to get mad at me for saying this, but I haven't had the energy to look it up. What is this whole, what can Brown do for you? Like, what is this thing? Why do you guys keep saying, what can Brown do for you? Like, I don't get it. Everyone's tweeting, what can Brown do? I'm like, I don't know what Brown can do for me. I have no freaking idea what you guys are talking about. It's the tagline of UPS. That's the UPS tagline. What can Brown? No, in 2010, UPS retired. I just looked it up. What can Brown do for you slogan. So for you're kind of 15 years late on this. But it's like everyone has been like, people have been emailing me, what can Brown do for? I'm like, I don't know. What are you, Brown Indian? Like, what are you saying? Like, I have zero clue what the hell you guys are talking about. But yeah, that's me as a UPS driver. All right, there we go. All right, so macro data, let's get into it. We got some pretty good jobs data and some good economic data. So US GDP is out. GDP came in at 4.4%. Expectations were 4.3%. So we beat expectations on US GDP for Q3. Now, this was also with the shutdown. So actually, no, the shutdown was Q4, right? No, the shutdown was Q4. So Q4 likely is going to be lower than 4.4. Some analysts were saying about 1.7% low. If Q4 ends up being even somewhat as good as Q3, even with the shutdown, that's going to be pretty impressive because that means the actual private sector growth was so strong, even if government sector growth slowed down. And then what does that mean for Q1 of 26, Q2 of 26? You got Howard Lutnick saying we grow at 6%. I mean, Southeast Asia, India is growing at 6%, and those are developing economies. For a developed economy to grow at 6%, and you would think we should be able to grow at those levels, obviously, because of AI. Like if the advance of AI means anything, it should mean continued growth and productivity. And so maybe we get those levels, but if we do, that would be a very good thing. Now, jobless claims came out this morning as well at 200,000, below expectations of 210,000. This is the 9th week in a row of lower than expected jobless claims. We have not had a miss on jobless claims in a while. And although 200,000 people filed for unemployment, if the expectation was 210,000, it goes to show there's a sort of divergence between the amount of unemployment that is expected versus the amount of unemployment that's actually being factored in. So what does this mean for us as investors? The economy is growing faster than expected, and people are filing for unemployment lower than expected. In terms of rate cuts, that means we're likely not getting a rate cut. There's a 5% chance January 28th, which is going to be a crazy day because you got Meta, Microsoft, Tesla after hours. You have FOMC during the day. So that's going to be a big day. There's a 5% chance we get a rate cut. We're likely not going to get a rate cut on January 28th, even though Trump really wants a rate cut. But I mean, you kind of got to give the Fed a little bit of credit here. I mean, if the GDP is growing strong and people aren't that unemployed and inflation's not necessarily falling off a cliff, it's coming down, but it's not like coming down to their target, which their target is arbitrary. I get it, but it's going to be hard just based on what we know about how the Fed thinks about this stuff to give us a rate cut. And the markets don't like to be surprised. So if the probability is at 5%, you're likely not going to get that cut. Last time the probabilities were at 95%, which is why we got the cut. But if more people have jobs, they can spend more. And if the economy is growing, there might not be a desperate need to stimulate by cutting rates. So what it means for the market is that, yeah, we might not get a rate cut, and a rate cut is obviously very good for asset prices. But even if we don't get a rate cut, the reason stocks are up in the pre-market is because assets are pricing in growth, because we're growing and people aren't losing their jobs to the level that I guess we thought they were losing their jobs a few months ago based on this new labor market data. And if people have money, they can spend. If they can spend, advertisers can spend more money on Facebook to advertise to them. So it's a nice cycle that is fueled by overall top line growth. And even if we don't get that rate cut, that does not mean that we're desperate for it in order for the markets to have a pretty good year. AMD right there up another 1%, 253. They were up 7% yesterday. So shout out to everyone in AMD. It's a big day for everyone in that one. So I think the macro data today was actually very bullish. And this is why I think you're seeing stocks get a bit of green. Now, obviously, the other reason that stocks are getting green, which we can get into that now, is the taco, which we got yesterday. I think that's a direct reason why why the market's liking what Trump said. For those that missed it, at around 2:40 yesterday, Trump did say that I will no longer be imposing the tariffs that were scheduled to go in effect on February 1st, based on a discussion that I had with the Secretary General of NATO, as we have come up with a concept of a framework of a deal. This, along with the jobs data and economic data this morning, I think you put all that together, you get a green market. Is it a head fake? Maybe. We'll see when the market opens. But overall, if the biggest headwind for the equity markets over the past 20 days was this Trump Greenland 10% tariff threat, which even when he put it out, felt fake. It felt like we played this game before. Like, yeah, the markets were going to react to it. We had the worst day since October 10th, but were the markets actually going to care that deeply about it? Looks like Trump walked into Davos and basically had a plan to get rid of this deal or get rid of this threat by having some level of negotiations and a compromise on what this framework will look like. Here's what he said this morning on the deal itself. Oh, 1 second. Lost audio. Let me pull this up again. Okay, should be able to hear it now.
So what are we talking about? An acquisition of Greenland? Are you going to pay for it? I mean,
we're talking about it. It's really being negotiated now, the details of it, but essentially it's total access. It's there's no end. There's no time limit. We're not doing a 99 or a 10-year or anything else, you know, the famous 99-year deals that you hear about, because countries can't do it for that. Countries go on longer. And so I think it's going to be something that's very well, already it's being reviewed very well. Well, I noticed the stock market went up very substantially after we announced it, but the details are being negotiated now.
This is another reason we cannot fade Trump, because he cares about the stock market. I haven't watched this clip this morning, but I mean, like, just hearing that, it's like, well, I noticed the stock market went up one night. This guy loves when the stock market goes up. Now, that might not be good for the everyday American who doesn't own stocks, because the stock market going up, quite frankly, doesn't fundamentally change their life. But for all of us that own stocks, I mean, you've got someone in the White House who really wants to see that sucker go up. And at the end of the day, it's why I think you have to be long assets.
It's very well, already it's being reviewed very well. Well, I noticed the stock market went up very substantially after we announced it, but the details are being negotiated now. It'll be very good.
So because the GDP of Greenland is like $3.3 billion, but people are valuing Greenland of between 50 billion and almost $1 trillion. So what are you willing to pay for Greenland?
Well, I'm not going to have to pay anything. We're going to have total access to Greenland. We're going to have all military access that we want. We're going to be able to put what we need on Greenland because we want it. We're talking about national security and international security. So we're going to not have to pay anything other than the fact that we are building the Golden Dome. And the Golden Dome is going to be something that's going to be very amazing. It'll be Israel times probably 100. And we need it. I think we need it. And it's all going to be made in the United States.
Here's what Trump then said about NATO.
I've always said, will they be there if we ever needed them? And that's really the ultimate test. And I'm not sure of that. I know that we would have been there, or we would be there. But will they be there? And let's hope that that never happens. We've never needed them. We have never really asked anything of them. You know, they'll say they sent some troops to Afghanistan or this or that. And they did. They stayed a little back, a little off the front lines. But we've been very good to Europe and to many other countries. And, you know, now under my administration, that began because we had a very successful first term. That began then, but it has to be a two-way street. And it's been a two-way street, much more so. And now it's really been a two-way street. I've always said, will they be there if we ever needed them?
And then finally, here's what he said about the Golden Dome with Greenland.
But in the meantime, we're getting everything we wanted: total security, total access to everything, have as many bases, have all the equipment that we want. And very importantly, you know, we're building the Golden Dome, we call it. It was called the Iron Dome. Somehow the Golden Dome sounded a little bit better, but we have a technology that's second to none. You saw what we did with Israel, and that's our genius that did that, and it's amazing. It's just, you know, it's foolproof, and we're going to be building it, and it works much better when we have access to Greenland. Just covers more territory, covers it more accurately. Missiles will be more accurate by having it. It's very important strategically as a piece, and we will have everything we want. We're getting everything we want at no cost.
So the Golden Dome will be on Greenland?
A piece of it, yes, and it's a very important part because it's everything comes over Greenland. If the bad guys start shooting, it comes over Greenland. So we knock it down. It's pretty infallible. It's amazing. You know, Ronald Reagan had the idea a long time ago, but we didn't have any technology at that point. The concept was great, but there was no technology. Now we have unbelievable technology. I mean, virtually 100%.
So the details of this deal are still a bit confusing, as you heard what Trump said right there. They are apparently getting access to certain parts of land in Greenland. Again, none of this has been officially confirmed, but this is what's been reported. This is kind of what Trump is hinting at. And they will have sovereignty over parts of those land. And as a result, they will be able to either mine for rare earths on that land, be able to build more military bases on the land, build parts of the Golden Dome, as Trump was talking about. But there's not like an explicit understanding of what's going on. The Denmark PM came out yesterday and said, we have a lot more work to do, I think was the exact quote, on the idea of the United States owning a piece of Greenland. And so they've like not completely shut down everything Trump is saying. Zeta, right, they're up about 2% of the pre-markets. But they're also not confirming that, like, yes, he gets everything, or he gets everything that he says he wants to get. So I think over the next coming weeks, we're going to get a much better understanding of what this negotiated deal looks like. But it's almost like Trump started with the worst offer he could, which is I want the entire land 5 days ago, and then threatened the tariffs. And he's walked it down substantially to try to get enough people to come to the negotiating table to give him certain parts of land that might be conducive to the military base, which kind of makes sense because, you know, analysts estimated that it would cost $700 billion to actually buy Greenland. I don't think the United States has that money. So, I mean, there probably wasn't a real offer to begin with for us to actually get the entirety of the land. But if this framework creates whatever win Trump wanted on getting certain parts of Greenland, then, you know, maybe this ends up being effective. But again, it's very, very confusing because, like, you know, what if this doesn't even happen? What if this is just like handshake agreement? And what if there's not actually a transition? What if Trump threatens tariffs again because, like, whatever deal he thought was going to happen isn't happening? I find that unlikely, but the point is, it is confusing to say the least until we get some real data on what this deal looks like. And hopefully over the coming weeks, we'll get a lot better understanding of it. Microsoft right here, by the way, at 449. I didn't even see Microsoft go to 444 yesterday. It touched 438. Wow. That one getting a little bit of a bounce in the pre-market, but that one now almost 450. Apple as well, that one at 250. AppLovin went to 532 yesterday. That one's at 540. Then Shopify fell to 137. Everything at some point yesterday really starts taking a dump, and those are starting to rebound. So ultimately, we're going to see what happens with Greenland. The most important thing for us as investors, whether or not the United States actually gets certain parts of it, whether or not this negotiation strategy works, is that the tariffs are done. And as long as the tariffs are done, that is not going to be a hindrance to the companies that could have been affected by the tariffs, at least from this perspective. The Supreme Court decision on tariffs, maybe we get next week, but if we don't get it, that's likely going to be delayed. So, you know, that might even reverse the ability to impose tariffs. Maybe it allows tariffs. So you kind of don't know exactly how those narratives are going to play out. But we don't have to worry anymore about all our European allies being tariffed by 10% and them retaliating because of this Greenland thing. So it kind of, I think the takeaway is you just keep doing what you're doing in the markets. Like, I think over the past couple of days, we were talking about not selling because there wasn't a fundamental reason to sell, and eventually this would blow over. I think the hedge funds and the institutions understood this really well. Although we had 2% on the S&P a couple of days ago, I think you probably had a lot of big money saying, we just don't trust this, and we're not actually going to act like this is some horrible, horrific thing. And likely that's why the market's trying to make all-time highs once again. Bitcoin right there at 89.4. Bitcoin is not making all-time highs, unfortunately. This one's getting hit. The memory stocks are just losing their minds, dude. Micron, 394. That's up 1.4% after being up 6% yesterday. SanDisk has doubled in 2026. It is up 112%. And honestly, you can't even, like, can you call this a crazy meme stock? Not really. Like, what they're doing, what Micron's doing, what Western Digital is doing is very, very important towards the AI revolution. And you had the Micron CEO the other day say, hey, if humanoid robotics is going to be a massive revolution, all those robots are going to need memory. So they're really saying that this is going to be something that lasts for a long time. I read some comparisons this morning, and I'm curious what other people think about this in the chat. Is Micron where NVIDIA was in May of 2023? May of 2023, NVIDIA was about 400 billion. Micron's at 437 billion right now. NVIDIA ended up going to 4.5 trillion. Let's say Micron doesn't 10x to 4 trillion, but could you see a double on Micron, get it to almost $1 trillion company if memory really is that important? I know it's cyclical. I know there's obviously all the bear cases, but the sheer growth is what I think the street's pricing in. By the way, the PE is 12. Forward PE. It's not like NVIDIA's PE was pretty cheap in May of 2023. It's just no one could believe that that growth could continue, and that growth has continued. So I don't know, but it's tough to buy here, dude, because the momentum at some point just gets to you, and like rationally you understand what you're buying, and yeah, you can DCA on a great company and you understand how vital they are. And theoretically, like the memory, like there shouldn't be a DeepSeek moment for memory unless NVIDIA just straight up starts to compete to like cut out the middleman here, which again is not the easiest thing for them to do, although it's possible. But it feels like Micron has a lot more momentum to go. Roy says Micron can definitely double. Yeah, it also feels like Micron has the institutional support to double. They're getting the price targets that are well into the 400s, and then they had an insider buy a couple of days ago as well. that also let people know how bullish they were. First insider buy since 2022. Autodesk restructuring a plan that will eliminate approximately 1,000 positions, representing 7% of its workforce, with most reductions occurring in customer-facing sales functions. ADSK, that's a headline we just saw. That's up 1.38%. So the fact that they're replacing customer-facing sales functions is likely a product of AI, in my opinion, because AI is probably going to replace a lot of the customer-facing sales roles as sales continues to be commoditized via AI. Call centers, we've seen it as the biggest example. And that's one of the headlines we have on Autodesk. SMCI in the pre-market, that's up 3%. All right, that's getting a little bit of a move. That was up 2%. Again, VG up 11%. They won the arbitration case last night. So I don't know if this one pumps in the open. Like, it's up now 16% over the past 24 hours. My gut says, yeah, it keeps going, but also, you know, you probably have a lot of people that bought at 6 and 8, not 6 and 7, 6 and 8, and they probably want to sell. I mean, they're up 40%. They probably want to take some profits. So, I mean, I think you will have some sellers at this range, but I mean, this is a big deal. They won the arbitration case. Without winning this case, the stock could have been stuck in dead territory for a long time. So maybe you just have a lot of buyers step in once the market opens. Coinbase right there, that's up 0.5%. Oklo's up 3%. The metal company's up 7%. T1 had a pretty nasty short report that was written on it. I did not get to read the report, but that one's down 3.4%. It was down 7%. But that short report is why that stock is now down. Rocket Lab, let's talk about that real quick. So Rocket Lab came out with a statement yesterday about Neutron. One of their rockets was ruptured, if I'm not wrong. Let me pull up the exact statement. And that is what caused some pain for the lab rockets. Meta did get an upgrade. We'll talk about that as well. Rocket Lab announced that during the qualification, where do I pull this up? For one of their, during the qualification testing of its Neutron rocket stage 1 tank, a rupture occurred during the hydrostatic pressure trial. Such testing failures are expected as the company deliberately tests its structures to validate safety and integrity. Fortunately, there was no significant damage from the incident, and production of the next stage 1 tank is underway, allowing the Neutron development campaign to continue. I don't know if this means that Neutron is now delayed, or I mean, the argument I heard from some people yesterday is that this is inevitably meaning that they're going to have to push it back a little bit, but it still should happen in 2026, even if it wasn't happening in, like, I don't know, May. It'll happen in July or something. But yeah, I don't think this is the most bearish. I mean, this is what happens when you're dealing with very, very hard forms of technology to put out into outer space. And the amount of time SpaceX has blown up a rocket has been more than you can count on one hand. So I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world, but I could obviously imagine the stock getting hit because of that. It already got hit yesterday night, and now it's already starting to recover. So the momentum is high on Rock Lab. We'll see when the market opens. People are actually upset. As Sachin says, it's effing rocket science. It ought to happen. That is correct. Miami going, or Waymo going to Miami. There you go. Wow. These guys continue to expand at an incredible level. New York, London, Toronto, now Miami. There you go. I mean, you got to give it up to the Googs. They are constantly pushing their version of self-driving. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I mean, obviously FSD is amazing. My dad just bought FSD because of how great of an experience it was. I've been in one Waymo. I do think FSD experience is a bit superior, but they need to get that to scale. Because if Waymo just beats them on the execution front of scaling it, and people can't really tell the difference between a robotaxi or a Waymo, which I think inevitably they will, that could be one of the bear cases for Tesla. So I think the quicker they scale this thing, the quicker they get the licenses, the quicker they can get unsupervised out there, the better chance Tesla has of winning this entire market. Tesla right there, 436. That's up 1.2% in the pre-market. Speaking of Google, TD Cowen raised their price target, or maintained their price target at 355, reiterated a buy. They said Waymo expands estimates on more markets. They see 28 million paid rides and 463 million of bookings over 17 cities in 2026. Google is up a bit in the pre-markets as well. Big tech continues to get slaughtered this year. I mean, big tech has just not had the best year so far. I think Google's one of the only Max 7s that's actually green, but you are starting to see big tech continue to get more momentum. Here's some headlines. Meta is rolling out ads on Threads. This might be another reason that Meta is up in the pre-markets. I have not used Threads since I signed up to it. Let me know in the chat if you actually scroll through Threads. even if we don't, it doesn't really matter because they have 250 million daily active users or 400 million monthly active users. And that's actually more daily MAUs than Elon Musk has on X. So, I mean, there's people that are scrolling through it. I don't necessarily know what they're reading. I don't know what content is the best on that platform, but there are eyeballs. And if they can monetize that and turn that into a, I don't know, with 400 million MAUs, they should be able to turn that into a $5-10 billion business over the next couple of years. Relatively easily because they have all the data already on all those people because they're just synced on Instagram. That should not be the craziest thing. So that should be bullish for Meta. And that should be another reason why big tech gets momentum. This is another headline for Gemini. Take a look at this. Gemini continues to take share in Gen AI web traffic. SimilarWeb has Gemini at 22% today, up from 19% a month ago. So you're seeing month-over-month growth, and 13% from 3 months ago. So it's almost doubled in generative AI traffic share on Gemini in particular. We looked at the Meta numbers yesterday, and they were also really good. That's up like 274% on a much smaller base, but big tech continues to get a lot more people to buy into the broader thesis. Jefferies reiterated the Meta price target at 910. 5 reasons they want you to buy it. Attractive risk reward at 8-turn PE discount versus Google, aka cheaper than Google. Moderate downside to estimates. All AI hires set to deliver in 2026. Number 4, continued momentum from Meta's core flywheel powered by AI. And number 5, they think WhatsApp is going to be a very big deal as that's going to grow to a $9 billion to $36 billion run rate going into fiscal year 2029. I want to say Meta's going to pump on earnings. I just have a little bit of a bad feeling about the AI CapEx narrative. Now, granted, if the market's pumping during that time, maybe that's enough. Like, you got the Greenland thing over with, maybe NVIDIA starts to have more momentum. Like, that could be enough to just pump up Meta with it. But I don't know. I mean, Lux is going to have to show that it's not just about advertising. And even if it just was advertising, Meta's $1,000 stock. If like there was no AI narrative overhang, it's just there is an AI narrative overhang. And unfortunately, that's creating problems on the stock really getting past that. I mean, Meta was at 780 at one point last year. So literally, it wasn't the numbers. It wasn't the one-time tax payment. It's the AI narrative overhang that has kept this stock in the gutter. And maybe that has made it one of the most appealing accumulation plays over the past 7 months. Speaking of AI, Openai is continuing to raise more money. $50 billion is what Sam Altman is looking for. Yeah, Meta got to 796 a couple months ago. At a $750 to $830 billion valuation. So, I mean, more money for OpenAI. We talked a lot about OpenAI yesterday. I really do think Anthropic has the better strategy. The fact that OpenAI is burning hundreds or at least tens of billions on GPUs for AI-generated videos in Sora makes no sense compared to what Anthropic is doing, which is getting integrated into custom-specific workflows inside of a finance company or a life sciences company and making it almost impossible for those companies to leave these products or leave these models to switch because the switching cost is higher if you're an enterprise, and it allows them to not focus on consumer engagement, which is like just a hamster wheel that everyone's on. It allows them to focus on actually building better models. So, I mean, if the race comes down to OpenAI and Anthropic, obviously OpenAI will do well. It's not like they're going to collapse unless Elon wins the lawsuit, which, I mean, it's not like there's a 0% chance he wins that lawsuit. But let's say he doesn't win the lawsuit. It just feels like Anthropic is a better business model. And so, I don't know. OpenAI is probably going to win. They're going to have to win. There's a lot of money they're paying to Oracle and AMD and all these companies. But it is kind of telling that they're so focused on the consumer, where the consumer, you know, they can't really even afford to pay $20 a month versus the enterprise, where it seems like all the money is at. Oracle did get to 171 yesterday. That was crazy, dude. I don't think we've seen Oracle at those levels, gapping up to 180 again today. The last time Oracle got to 170 as it got to yesterday. We have to go all the way back to June. It hit 177 in December, but not quite at 170. We have to go back to June on the chart to see 170 on Oracle. But that one now gapping up about 3.7%. Iran also got hit yesterday. That one making a little bit of move higher. That's up 2.84%. And Nebius from 110 to 96 back to 101. Again, these data center stocks incredibly volatile. That's getting some move as well. Lemonade is at $89. They said they will give you 50% off if you use their insurance to insure a Tesla vehicle with FSD enabled. So nice little partnership between Lemonade and Tesla, and that stock getting a 4% move after a 9% move from yesterday as well. Speaking of enterprise AI, as we were talking about with Anthropic, Palantir gets another price target upgrade to 200. Actually, this is an initiation of coverage $208 is the price target by Phillips Security. Here's what they say. Group revenue is expected to grow 47% to US $4.2 billion in fiscal year 2025. The revenue mix is shifting, with commercial revenue projected to grow 51%, outpacing government revenue at 43%. US growth, Palantir's largest market at 66% of revenue, is accelerating 66% year over year, driven by government demand and geopolitical tensions and rising US intelligence. We initiate coverage of Palantir with our DCF-based price target of 208. Our model assumes that the forward PE sits at 170x, below the -1 standard deviation level of 190, indicating potential re-rating supported by improving fundamentals and a growing addressable market with a terminal growth rate of 8%, risk-free rate of 4.2%. Now, it's kind of crazy. I know some people saying, hey, they're just saying a 170x forward PE is reasonable. But Phillips is saying, well, if you look at the standard deviation of where Palantir has historically traded on their forward PE, it is significantly lower than that historical number. Therefore, we think it could be re-rated. Maybe that's going to be wrong. Maybe that's going to be right. All I know is that in a world in which SaaS is dead, literally SaaS cannot catch a bid, the one SaaS company that has been catching a bid for the past 5 years is Palantir. And it's because they're putting up growth. So, like, again, the argument about the valuation, I am very sympathetic to it because I understand the valuation is aggressive, but the valuation's always been aggressive. The one thing that has not been aggressive by the other SaaS companies is their ability to grow, because they just can't put up anything above 20% growth, and most of them are putting up 15% growth. Palantir's at 60% growth. So investors are willing to pay that premium, and if Palantir continues to grow into that multiple, then I don't think it necessarily needs to lose that multiple as well. So we will have those earnings on February 2nd, and we'll see what ends up happening there. Yes, Elon will be speaking at Davos. This was a surprise session. I don't know when it's happening. I think it's in the middle of the day, but he will be speaking at Davos. He wasn't supposed to, but I think it's going to be virtual, but he's going to be there, and we'll get some clips of what he has to say at Davos as well. Here was Trump on the credit card rates. The cap for credit cards was January 20th. We are 2 days removed from that, so I think people forgot about it, but this is what Trump's take was on the 10% rates.
How can you do that? Look, I'm all for free enterprise and everything else, but you have a guy goes out and he's a little bit late on his payment, and he ends up filing for bankruptcy, right? 28%. Whatever happened to usury? Mm-hmm. Whatever happened? They used to have laws that you can't charge too much, but 28%, 30%, 32%. I don't think anyone knows that. I think they get a bill and they end up just going bankrupt.
Well, one analyst said it's going to cut earnings for the banks for between 5% and 16%.
It's a 1-year deal. We got to let people get back on their feet.
Jamie Dimon says that it's an economic disaster.
They were destroyed. These people were destroyed during the Biden years. They were destroyed. We had the highest inflation in history. Look, how can you do that? Look,
Trump obviously trying to appeal on the affordability narrative. Again, I don't think we're actually going to cap credit cards at 10%, but if he says he wants to do that, he can appeal to the base of people that feel the banks are very big and greedy, which it's not like the banks aren't big and greedy. It's just also logically, if you cap it at 10%, there might not be the ability to give that much credit out there. So we'll see. I mean, we haven't had an official policy or executive order kind of take place. Trump did put out an executive order yesterday, I believe, after hours, about stopping big companies from buying single family homes. So he did try to make an executive order on that. I don't know if he can do that for credit cards, but over time, if he's serious about this, then maybe we'll see a policy proposal like that. Kathy, she was on yesterday. Here is why she is fading the large caps, as she doesn't think the hyperscalers are the best place to put your capital.
You have bigger stakes in any of the so-called hyperscalers.
Right. So one of the reasons is we think the shareholder base of those companies is changing and will continue to change because shareholders in the last cycle who got used to huge cash flow and cash positions building, very little M&A because FTC had shut down M&A. All of that is changing with AI now and with a new FTC. So we're seeing huge capital spending and returns on invested capital probably coming down for a while. And the shareholder base in those companies has really stayed with them because returns on invested capital had been moving up. I think this is a bit of a shock to their system. And as you know, we are very focused on more pure play future winners. I'm not saying the Mag 6 won't win. In many ways, they will. But they certainly, any company that is in the broad-based benchmarks and has risen to the top has gotten there because of past performance and a certain DNA that worked during the last 20 years or so. We think there's so much disruption happening now, technologically enabled disruption, some that will benefit, some that will not benefit the Mag 6. So we are much more focused on, the companies that are not as well known, but are going to benefit enormously from the year ahead and the years ahead. And I will say, last year, the market starting to broaden out away from the Mag 6. We outperformed. We're in the top 5%, I think, four of the top 5 ETFs by Morningstar. And even for the last 3 years, we're in the top 5%. So I think the
last 5 years are in the bottom 1%, if you look at ARC over the past 5 years. But why is she saying the Mag 6? What happened to the Mag? Who is she taking out from the Mag 7? Is she taking Apple out or something? I don't know why she keeps saying Mag 6. But look, these are two takes that I think are really interesting in the market. So Kathy says fade the Mag 6 because there's more disruptive innovation in other places, which my retort to that would be there's a lot of disruptive innovation coming from the Mag 6. It's just their market caps are really high. So maybe their stocks don't go up as easily, but there's a lot of stuff happening in the Mag 7 companies. And then you have Tom Lee saying freaking there's a 20% drawdown coming soon in the middle of the year and you got to be ready for it. Again, I think these are two of the most interesting takes in the market right now from people in finance media. It's just like, wait a second. So one person says you fade the large caps completely, which look, she's been right about over the past 20 days. Large caps have not been the play, but her argument being there's more, like I could understand, hey, the market caps are too high. You need things that are like 10 billion to go to 20 billion, not 4 trillion to go to 8 trillion. That I totally understand. But to say there's not disruptive innovation coming out of NVIDIA or Tesla with Optimus or what Google's doing. I mean, like it's hard to make that argument appealing to me. And then you got Tom Lee saying, hey, 20% drawdown soon. And I'm like, 20% drawdown is not a joke, bro. Like that's S&P 550. That's all these stocks getting cut, especially the growth stocks, by more than 50% on a 20% draw. I mean, we saw what happened in 22 when we had a 19.7% drawdown. Stocks were down 70 to 80%. And also, what's the catalyst for a 20% drawdown? Like what is the catalyst? Because I don't see a recession yet. That could happen, but I don't see it. Growth is not slowing down, not with Trump in office. Geopolitical crazy thing could happen, yes, but if that happens, like I don't think we can say that's the reason, because if that happens, like it's inevitable that the market's going to get hit. And also, it would have to be pretty freaking crazy for that to cause a 20% drawdown. And then the only other argument is like AI is not real; it's a bubble, which is like okay, but based on the earnings we're seeing, AI is looking pretty damn good so far. 40 or 4% of companies have reported. 83% of them have beat on earnings, which is very similar to the past couple of quarters where almost 80 to 85% of companies have beat. 5% of them have actually surprised on their earnings. So, I mean, if we continue to see this, I don't know if like AI being fake is the argument. Wasn't Tom saying S&P 7,000? Well, he's saying 7,700, but he says we have to go down to basically 20% from here would be 5,500 first before we get there, which would be a 40% reversal from a 20% decline. Like that to me is confusing. Not saying it can't happen, but man, that would be a bloodbath in the United States. And what would that do for our treasuries? I mean, maybe that would finally create some demand for our treasuries so people would get into something that's safe. The U.S. Treasury right here, 4.259. The Danes are dumping our treasuries, by the way. Now it's only 100 million worth of treasuries that they are dumping, but we did get that data yesterday that you are seeing more people dumping. I think Trump said this morning that if the EU were to dump our treasuries, there will be like retaliation or something. That was one of his quotes. But I mean, again, my question yesterday was if the EU dumps our treasuries, where are they going to put that money? Like you need a place to put your money that's safe and that gives you somewhat of a yield. You can't just dump it into stocks because those are not safe. So I don't necessarily think our treasuries have to get hit that bad. This is a funny picture that I saw yesterday as well. This is the Micron, Samsung, or no, this is I think Samsung CEO, SK Hynix CEO, and then NVIDIA CEO as they were in, was this Korea? I think they were in Korea drinking beer. As you can see, two of them have their stocks that have gone up. The other one has had his stock go down. But it's okay, because NVIDIA will eventually have its moment again. Gold prices, we are down a little bit on gold, up on silver. Silver's at 93.53, gold's at 4,800. Gold is now a $33 trillion market cap. It continues to go higher. And, actually gold and silver went down yesterday when Trump announced that he wasn't putting the tariffs. So they reacted more negatively, which they should, because there's less instability. But still, gold and silver holding on to some very high levels. We have not seen that crazy top that people are talking about in these asset classes as this commodity super cycle continues to be pretty strong. What do you think about Path? I don't know enough about Path. I am a little worried that Claude and some of these AI products that are coming out there, even if Path's numbers don't necessarily get affected, which should be the only thing that matters. Again, it comes back to narrative. This has been the problem with Duolingo. Like, I don't know, dude. If Claude is getting ready to commoditize a lot of these basic RPA workflows, it makes you wonder, like, how much of a market is there for these companies to go after? And I don't think we've fully seen, like, the only company that we've seen that has been fully eliminated, and there's probably more examples, but the one that's been fully eliminated in the context of AI is Chegg. I'm sure there's probably more, but this is the one that stands out to me. Chegg was a platform to help people like study, and LLMs completely commoditized it, because now you can just ask an LLM any question and they'll give you many, many in-depth answers. So the education platforms have been hit pretty bad. The enterprise workflow adoption platforms, like a Path, like a Salesforce, I mean, these things that are deeply entrenched in the enterprise, they shouldn't die out. It would be very difficult for me to imagine Salesforce really, losing business, but they're also not growing substantially. And I think that's the problem. Now, Path's growth is better than Salesforce's growth, but it's also not like Path's not growing 30, 40%. It's like, I think close to 15%, which is better than Salesforce, but it's not like it's the best growth ever. Yeah, Figma. Well, Figma, see, people are giving Figma too much flack, dude. Figma's IPO, unfortunately, sent this stock to 150. It did not deserve to go there. And so the chart, as you can see right here, looks horrible, but it's also not their fault, in my opinion. Like, it wasn't them that pumped up the stock to $150. But they are a SaaS name. And as a SaaS name, they continue to get hit as well. Did you see what happened with nat gas prices in EU? Yes, and that's probably what's also helping VG. Nat gas prices are up 30% over the past couple of days. VG right there at $10.04. So you do have a broader increase in oil prices, especially in Brent crude as well. It's down a little bit today, but it's at 64. It was at 60 a couple weeks ago. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that as well. So many things have happened to start off the year, dude. So many things. The Venezuela thing, it kind of happened out of nowhere, randomly in the middle of the night. That became news. Then you have everything with Greenland. You have all these random policies by Trump around quantitative easing with Fannie and Freddie, credit card rates. I mean, it has been a jam-packed month, and we haven't even really started earnings. So I think we've got a lot more to go. Home sales fell 9.3%. What do you think? Yeah, that was ugly, but that's also kind of expected. I mean, it was the worst since 2020, but like the housing market's frozen right now, which is why Trump desperately wants rates to come down, but he needs this 10-year to come down to get mortgage rates to come down so that people can start buying a house. So until we get any progress on the bond yields, I think the housing market will continue to be frozen. Yeah, we do have PCE at 10 a.m. That's correct. So in about 30 minutes, we got the market open in 1 minute. We will have PCE data. That is the Fed's preferred measure of inflation. So at 10 a.m., that could either send us really up or potentially really down. Now, CPI was good. PPI was not that good. So we'll see what personal consumption expenditures look like. And then we'll get some information from there. We are likely not getting a Supreme Court decision today. And the jobs data came out this morning, 200,000 people unemployed versus 210,000. So it was better than expected. And that with GDP, which if you're just joining, came in at 4.4% versus 4.3%, was also better than expected for Q3. That is why I think stocks are green. And now hopefully this can continue as we end out the third trading week of January. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It is Thursday, January 22nd, 9:30 a.m. The stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. S&P 500, 689.58. That is up 0.61% on the S&P. VG up 10.06%. That's at 996. Figma, that's down 27.11. UiPath 14.57. That's up 2.5. Palantir Got a new upgrade this morning to $208. That's at 167. That's green. Nebius 103. That's up 4%. Iren up 3% at 55. AMD 249. That goes flat on the day, but that's green from yesterday. Oracle back to below 180. 179. That hit 170 last night. Google 332. That's up 1%. Rocket Lab gets hit. Neutron likely being delayed. That's down 2.65% based on a rupture of one of their rockets. Tesla 434. Tesla was almost at 415 yesterday. So the fact that this one's recovering is nice to see, at least a little bit. 434. They have earnings next Wednesday. T1 Energy, ugly short report that came out on them yesterday. That's down 6%. SMCI is up 3%. Autodesk restructuring some of their employees. That's up 2.2%. Micron and SanDisk go red. Micron just went green. SanDisk is down about 2%. Those are your memory plays. Robinhood at 107.93. This one's kind of been flat around this 106, 107 level. NVIDIA, are we green? We are 186 green, up 1.46%. NVIDIA getting some love right there. EOSE, that's up 1.3%. Enersys continues to be one of the best energy grid plays in the market, up another 1.78%. The multiple on this also not really that expensive at just under 2 times sales, 176. CoreWeave 98.89. That's up 5%. Riot's up 1.2%. Nike is up 0.5%. Silver's up 1%. Cypher's up 3%. Redwire is up 3%. CrowdStrike at 451. That is green. JP Morgan, are we up? JP Morgan is also up 307. This is down from 320. But this was up. Grab at 451. That's up 2.61% for Grab. Iren trying to push 56 right there. 4.79%, 56.15. Oracle at 179. Where is Meta? Are we at 630? We are just below 630, 629 on Meta. VG getting a little bit of a dump. Now, again, I kind of expected this. I think everyone should have expected this. This one pumped really heavy. This could easily reverse. But there's a lot of people that bought this thing at $7 that are taking a nice 25% gain at 950. So it's not crazy to see that dump. The most important thing fundamentally, if you are investing and not trading in VG, is that they won the arbitration case. And that is what matters. Zeta, are we going green here? We are trying to get back to 21 on Zeta. Yes, natural gas is also up 30%, which is another reason that's helping VG. Lemonade, 89.90. As that one is going for $90. When's the last time Lemonade was $90? Yeah, it hasn't happened in the past 6 months. All right, so Lemonade, this thing was at 35 back in the summer. So it's made a hell of a move right there. There it is, $90.90 on Lemonade. Congrats if you are in this one. That's up 6.9% on the day. Where's ASTS? This was pumping pre-markets. This is now still up 4.2%, 107. Rocket Lab is at 85.80. That's down 2.3%. The rare earth companies, USAR, that's up 12%. CRML, that's up 6%. MP, is that following? That's up 5.4%. Okay, so you're getting some love on the rare earth companies. Makes sense based on the potential compromise for this Greenland deal. Arista's up 12%. I don't see the headline on Arista. I'll try to see what's going on there. But that stock is also up a little bit. TMC, I imagine that one's moving. TMC, wow, 20%. Okay, so you're seeing the rare earth companies really catch a bid right here and getting some broader excitement. TMC up 20%. Broadcom's up 2%. Enphase is up 5%. ANET's up 11%. Again, I don't see the headline on ANET. Feels like there has to be one. Usually that one doesn't move without a headline. ASTS, again, that's still up 5. Rock Labs down 2. Zeta 2088. As that one continues to move higher. Grab at 453. And then Meta breaking through 630. Meta finally breaking through 630. 633 on Mr. Meta, as that one hasn't broken through in a while. Dude, that thing was at 600. What is it? On Tuesday. It's at 600 on Tuesday. And now you're seeing a move a bit higher. Lemonade 89.49. Again, Zeta 2083. And you're seeing some of these other names move. Let me pull up a couple things right here. We are going to be getting macro data in just a second, or in about 10 minutes. Micron's getting wrecked. Yeah, Micron's getting hit. IGV software is actually up. Ondas, we just had a file for an offering of 1.62 million shares. That stock, let me pull that up as well. This one got an upgrade this week. Are we green here? Ondas, 12.58. That's down from $14. So that one's getting hit a little bit. IGV software catching a bit more of a bid. That's up 1%, 96.45. CRML That's up 6.8. Lockheed Martin, the drone stocks and the defense stocks getting some love. COPEX also goes red. TSM 332 as that goes green. ABCL, there you go. 8% on the day. Maybe some drug results came out for those guys. That's getting a little bit more momentum. BABA, this was moving heavier last week, got rejected. Now it's back to moving. 176. Look at that 1 month chart all the way up from 145 just a couple weeks ago. The Chinese names continue to gain more momentum. AEHR, this is one of the names Roy was happy about, breaking through 30. That's up 5%. Again, another small cap, which continues to be the theme, under $1 billion in the semiconductor ecosystem, as that one is now up another 5%. Vertiv just launched AI-powered predictive maintenance for data centers. This was a stock I know a lot of people are interested in. VRT, that's up 2% right there, as that is a new AI-based anomaly detection algorithm they are putting out to manage building out these AI factories and data centers. Meta still moving up 3%. Where is Amazon? Amazon's at 233. This one's been stuck around that range for a while. Meta really getting some love right here. 632. Is Palantir getting hit? Palantir is getting hit. Palantir went to 161 yesterday. Then got a little recovery after the taco tweet. It does look like she wants to go down a bit further before consolidating here. I still don't have the headline on ANET, but that's up 12%. Is A-Lab also up? No. So that's a specific thing to Arista. Ondas just went red. Amcor and Intel continue to be the onshoring plays. Now, Intel has earnings today after the bell. I mean, do we think after a 47% 22-day performance for Intel, they're going to $60 after the bell? Or are they going to actually put out some numbers that are not that good? Because it's not like Intel is the best company in the world. It's just they have Jensen and Trump on their side. And the numbers match the reality of the fact that this multiple is probably too aggressive. I don't know. But they will have earnings today, and so we're going to have to see what happens with Intel. 53.32 right now on Intel, as that one's going down a little bit. Celestica is down. I don't know why. That's an ugly candle, though. CLS 9% down. I don't see a headline for this, but it is down. Even one of the banks said Celestica, Arista, and Credo are among our top picks for 2026. They said that yesterday. Arista's up, but Celestica is not. Credo also 1.32%, as that is slightly up as well. I don't see any Trump tweets, so nothing came out of Trump yet. But we are seeing a little bit of weakness across the entire market. Adobe, is that one getting a rebound? Adobe right here, 300. Okay, Adobe was at 294 yesterday, at least getting a little bit of love. One Stop Systems, that one's down 4%. That was breaking $12 per market. Netflix, who's buying the Netflix dip? This one is trading at its lowest levels in over 3 years. Got to 81, then pumped up to 85, now back at 84. It does seem like they will be getting Warner Brothers. GameStop's getting a little interesting, not because of anything fundamental, but CEO buying 1 million shares in 2 days. It makes you think, is he just messing around, or is $22 million because he thinks something is happening? I don't have a fundamental reason for GameStop, but insiders buy for one reason. Duolingo, that's up 3.8%. SoFi getting a little bit of love, 2.68%. I still don't see a headline for Arista. I don't know why this thing's up 14% today, unless there's a broader networking headline around data centers where they play a big role in. Yeah, I've got nothing other than one of the banks naming them as their top AI stock, but that was yesterday. That wasn't today, so I'm not sure why that is moving this way. PayPal's making an acquisition. PayPal's acquiring CYMBO. What the hell is that? CYMBO. Symbo? PayPal to acquire Symbo, accelerating agentic commerce capabilities. I don't know what the hell this is, but I guess they're making an acquisition. I guess it's a tech company that helps with agentic commerce. Symbo will enable tens of millions of merchants to become discoverable on leading AI platforms. Okay. Whatever can make this thing go up, that would be nice. I think PayPal's earnings in a couple weeks as well. We will watch the yearly clip that we watched before PayPal's earnings with me and Adam from 2024. For those that haven't seen it, it'll be a treat. For those that have seen it 3 years in a row, it will still be a treat. We have to watch that every year. Meta 635 broke through. Seeing this one get a little bit of love. Kathy Wood removed Tesla from the Mag 7. Oh, so she was taking Tesla out of that? That's being extra just because she wants to make Tesla its own thing. 433.85. Tesla's up 0.5% on the day. Meta launching the first breakthrough models with the new superintelligence labs will be released in the public in Q1, Q2. Seems promising based on the scenes review. We talked about that yesterday, where they said that superintelligence and the new models were just getting beta tested. I think for Meta to really make superintelligence a real thing, they have to like integrate it into the workflows of people using Facebook and Instagram, or become their personal assistant, which is just a little tough because I mean, I don't use Facebook to like schedule my life, but I'm sure there's people that do, and maybe that's where Meta sees the opportunity. S&P 690, look at that. S&P up almost 1% on the day. That's now recovering everything it lost over the past 72 hours. That's up basically 2%. MasterCard and Visa continue to be flat as the credit card stuff is not necessarily resolved. Visa's up a little bit today. Intel down 1.7. TSSI, that's up 1%. Nike's up 1.5. Again, we get PCE in 20 minutes. We'll see how the market thinks of that. Lilly, that's up 0.5% today. That's getting some love. Big Bear AI is up 1.4. DJT is up 2%. Quantum stocks as well, 26.46 on D-Wave. That's up. Bloom Energy is down 2% as well. Capital One does report after the bell. Yeah, we have Intel, Capital One, and Intuitive Surgical. So actually 3 really important companies. One's in finance, one's in chips, and then one's in robotics, which would be important. Okay, let's see what other headlines we have playing out. I mean, relatively flat to greenish market. S&P just got hit from 690. You're not seeing like a massive move up. That was kind of yesterday at 240 when we had the Trump tweet come out. But you're also not seeing like at least so far, not like a head fake on the bulls, which could happen, but we're not necessarily seeing it yet. Okay, let's pull up a couple of different things here. VG, again, that one's still moving, even if it's not at $10. Still don't know why ANET's up so much, but it is indeed up. Oh, this was a headline yesterday. I don't know what to make of this, but the Wall Street Journal is reporting that sources inside of the Trump administration are saying that the #1 priority for Trump by the end of 2026 is to have regime change in Cuba. And the idea is based on these sources. Again, this is the Wall Street Journal. These sources might be complete BS, but the idea is Trump reportedly believes that ending the Castro era would cement his legacy. I don't know if that's necessarily the type of legacy he really wants to go after, but that's what the Wall Street Journal is reporting. Bitcoin, are we getting a pump? BTC, a little bit of a dump. Again, at 10 a.m., we're going to get a lot more data, which is probably what people are waiting for more than anything. Bitcoin right there, 89.36. Mercado Libre, that's up 5%. That's a big day for Mercado Libre. It doesn't usually move 5% up. 21.58. Warner Brothers says it's confident Netflix deal will get approval. I think Paramount's getting ready to do another offer and submit it in the next coming days, which again is starting to feel kind of annoying, but I think that's another reason why Netflix has this overhang. Nvidia losing its momentum, 184.70. Every day this thing tries to make a move and cannot break through. Warner Bros. Discovery says Paramount continues to make the same offer our board repeatedly unanimously rejected in favor of a superior merger with Netflix. I mean, I don't think Warner Brothers wants to sell to Paramount. Any speculation on the data coming at 10? So PCE, let's pull it up right here. So we get a lot. We get core price index month over month. We get year over year. We get personal income spending, personal spending. The street wants 0.2%, or sorry, 0.1%. Last time was 0.2%. If we come in at 0.1 or lower, oh, we get October and November. Oh, wow. We get a lot of stuff, dude. Dude, we're getting a lot of data. I forgot we missed October's data. Yeah, look at this. We're getting like 10 different things. Okay, so the actual core PCE price index is the one that really matters, is 2.8. Street's at 2.7. Okay, so if we come in below 2.7, I think stocks might get a little pump. And if you're trading, if you see 2.6 and you have something you want to buy that you think is in the right zone, maybe that's when you take that buy, because that's what would be the catalyst. If you see above 2.7, maybe you have a tight stop loss. But that's going to be the number, along with a variety of other numbers that we're going to be getting at 10 a.m. VG right there, 970. That's green. Grab up 3% of the day. JP Morgan up 1.2. And NVIDIA at 184. Someone bought $3 million of puts on NVIDIA for 177.50 on 220. Wow. I mean, unless they're hedging, which they could be. Could you imagine NVIDIA tanks the 170s after earnings? Like, you would think earnings is going to be amazing, right? Like, they're going to put up freaking almost 70 billion. They guided for 65 billion. So, you know, they're probably going to do like 67 billion, maybe 68 billion of revenue. It's going to be a with probably 73% gross margins. For that to go down, that would be crazy. Rocket Lab right there, 83.45. All right, Rocket Lab now getting hit based on that Neutron news, as that's down 5%. Let me pull up this for core PCE as well. This is some analysis from our boy Nikki T at the Journal. His argument is, based on the CPI and PPI for December, economists estimate that core prices in PCE advanced 0.38% in December, which would push the 12-month rate to 3% from 2.8%. Oh, that would be a little ugly. This would be the highest year-over-year core PCE since February of 2025. Damn, they're estimating 2.9? And on the core, they're estimating 2.8. No, core is the median estimate is 3%. I mean, okay, if we get 3%, that might be a little ugly. Even if it's a short-term pain that we have to go through, it still would be a little ugly. OSS getting hit. Yeah, this one got hit yesterday, then recovered. Again, it's a small cap, so small caps are going to get hit. 1094, that's down 6.3. Where's Hoodie? Hoodie as well, dude. Wow, goes red. It's just not been the best month for it. Just cannot find a breakout. And I get it, Bitcoin's holding it down, but it's having a hard time. You're already starting to see some of these stocks go red. Zeta's losing some steam. Rare Earth's losing steam. NVIDIA's losing steam. Grab is holding up. VG's holding up. I ran down from 56.69 to 54.77. Elon's speaking at 10:30, I think, right? So we might be able to catch Elon at the World Economic Forum. Wow, AppLovin. What is going on, dude? 524. Goodness gracious, this name. You think you catch a good entry and it just screws you. I guess the PCE data will be really important to see where this stuff goes. Small caps still outperforming the S&P 500 today. Look at that IWM. Down from 270, but still up 0.5%. Aren't election years always bad? Well, midterm years are always bad. Now, granted, there's a lot of catalysts to maybe counteract that. But yes, midterm years tend to not be the best for the stock market. Larry Fink says there's no AI bubble. He says, I sincerely believe there's no bubble in the AI space. Hundreds of billions of dollars are spent on AI. It'll drive global growth despite some inevitable big failures. But obviously, Larry Fink, he's invested pretty heavy in AI, so he's not going to say there's a bubble. But, I mean, he is right. Like, there will be some massive failures. Meta at 630. But, you know, there still shouldn't be a bubble because the winners should outplay the losers. He did say sincerely. That is correct. He did say sincerely. Google, 332. 332. ARM's up 6%. The ARM CEO was live yesterday. And he was talking about their momentum. SoftBank still owns 90% of this thing. So, that's why this one always has the potential to have a bit of a squeeze. Brandon, thanks for the super chat. Can it really be as simple as you don't fade these markets with how much the admin takes in growth and positive macro inflation, jobs, etc.? Yeah, I think so. I think Trump wants to see the stock market go up. If it goes down, he's going to allow temporary pain, but eventually try to get it to go back up. And then earnings are real. Like until earnings stop being real. Again, the thing I think people forget about 2022 is earnings were so bad. Like there was no growth and the companies were overbloated because they hired too much for COVID. And so the numbers just looked horrendous. I remember me and my 20 shares of Meta going from 340 to 210. And now Meta 210 is like, in hindsight, looks amazing, right? But like that was pretty painful seeing that. And that was on earnings day, 320 to 210 on an earnings day. It's like, goodness. It was ugly. But there wasn't any earnings. This time, Meta has earnings. And that should be enough to at least sustain it, even if the AI narrative is not the best for them. Yeah, Meta still holding on to a little bit of green today, although that was down a lot from those highs, 3% up on the day. Let's see. If Rock Lab dips below hard to the 70s, I'm not going to miss the opportunity. This isn't bad news, it sounds. So Rock Lab, the Neutron thing is not bad news at all. I mean, that's inevitable. The broader problem is Rock Lab has a pretty hefty valuation. And in the mid 70s, I don't think it gets cheaper. But the SpaceX IPO is what I think really matters for this catalyst. It's just, do we wake up one day and do all the thematic themes that were like relevant based on a catalyst, do they just fall apart? Like, do people stop caring about drones and nuclear and space? Like, I don't think that happens, but that is the risk you take with buying a stock that's trading at a pretty elevated multiple, and then the multiple compresses. If that doesn't happen, Rocket Lab dip, ASTS dip, Lunar dip, Redwire dip, those probably get bought. VG right there, 977, as that's up 7.5%. Here is, so we have the data in about 7 minutes on PCE. Here is Jensen. This was a minute of his talking points from Davos and kind of a summary of what he had to say yesterday.
Infrastructure build out in human history. That's going to create a lot of jobs, and it's wonderful that the jobs are related to tradecraft, and we're going to have plumbers and electricians and construction and steel workers and network technicians and people who install and fit out the equipment, and all of these jobs. We're going to, in the United States, we're seeing quite a significant boom in this area. Salaries have gone up nearly double. Yeah. And so we're talking about six-figure salaries for people who are building chip factories or computer factories or AI factories. And we have a great shortage in that. And I'm really delighted to see so many people in so many countries really recognizing this important area. Everybody should be able to make a great living. You don't need to have a PhD in computer science to do so. And so I'm delighted to see that.
So that was Jensen. That was the majority of his talking points. Do you guys see me? Why is it? Are we frozen? Hold on. Can you guys hear me? Why is it acting like it's frozen? You guys can't hear me. No, but you can hear me, right? Okay, hold on. Let me fix this real quick. Okay, I think we should be back. I think. Yes, we're good. Okay, cool, we're good. I don't know what just happened right there. That was weird. Some Matrix shit, bro. What just happened? That was weird. What was I saying? Jensen obviously talking about the sort of core concept around AI. This was another video of him. We got the data in about 5 minutes coming in where he was taking a ton of selfies. So as you can see, Jensen continuing to be treated as the rock star that he is. This was in Davos. Like, everyone knows NVIDIA is the shit and Jensen's the guy. It's just the market is not giving it the multiple yet that we officially want to see. The sound delay probably will be fixed in a second. StreamYard, I don't know why it has that stupid sound delay. But if you give it a couple minutes, I think that delay should be fixed. All right, 4 minutes until this data. VG getting a little bit of a gap up from 970 to 980. You're seeing a bit of a V shape across the board. S&P, unfortunately, not really getting a chunk of that V shape. 687, I think that's the lowest level it was at today, right? Yeah, pretty much the lowest levels it was at today. In the next 4 minutes, this is when we see if this data ends up playing out. We're getting PCE. It's a lot of data coming in. So if you are trading, definitely this stuff is going to matter. Mercado Libre at 2150. Shopify 140. AppLovin continues to get decimated. Apple at 248. Even Microsoft losing all of its pump, dude. Microsoft was at 540 in July. It's at 445, even after growing earnings the way they have. This one actually is my dark horse candidate for earnings over Meta. Like, I think if anything's going to pump it, it should be freaking Microsoft. But we're going to have to see if the numbers are good enough. Lemonade right there, 91.38. Enphase going nuts. The solar stocks are getting a little bit of a revival, which is weird in the Trump administration that doesn't care about solar. But we're also seeing the demand for energy is so important with AI that we need a lot of energy. And that's why I think Enphase is getting some love right here. But solar has been, I mean, Enphase was $300 back in 2022. So this one has been decimated, but maybe there's a shot this can recover. Baba, that one's still moving as well. JD, I know this is a popular stock that a lot of people like. A lot of people thought this was going to 40. The fundamentals on JD are amazing. I mean, it's trading at a price of sales of 0.23. So I like JD. I don't know why this one's been lagging all the China names. Like, Baba's just been a better bet. Baidu has been a way better bet. But JD has not really been the one to take off. Oh, Novo. Yeah, we didn't talk about that. That's up 4.5%. Novo dropped to like $30 last year, right? 41 in November. Yeah, this one is at a hell of a move as Hims has just gone the opposite direction. Enphase and Shift 4 are the two companies I've been nibbling at for the past 2 months. I think Burry likes Shift 4. Oh, also, Burry is raising the prices on his subscription from $30 to $50 today, he announced. So for anyone who wants to subscribe to Burry, you're going to have to pay a little bit more money for his Substack. NUAI, New Era Energy. This one up, wow, 34%. Dude, this was up 10% yesterday, froze. It was up 20% the day before. Now it's up another 34%. Goodness gracious, dude. This one also a freaking small cap, under 500 million market cap. But these are the gems that have been getting some more momentum. Yeah, I'm trying to look at some takes on NUAI. You have some people saying it's a scam. You have other people saying that this is like a little bit of a mini EOSE, even if it's in a different sector. And that one absolutely exploded as well. Yeah, it's up 104% this week. I mean, that's pretty aggressive. All right, macro data. Here we go. Let's see what we got. Let's pull this up. This is going to be pretty important. We should be getting most of this soon. I'm going to be reading off a lot of numbers. I'm not going to be looking at the market in particular, trying to get the numbers out first. And then we'll go from there. I'll try to keep the S&P on the side of my screen and see what it looks like. All right, 10 a.m. Here we go. We should be getting this immediately. We're looking for below 2.8 on core PCE. And then we have some other major metrics that we're looking for as well. Still don't have them yet. They are loading. Should be out in a second. S&P is going down. S&P is going down. Okay. PCE price index month over month, 0.2 versus 0.2 expected. That's it comes in line. Core PCE index, 0.2 versus 0.1. That's a miss. Core PCE month over month, 0.2 versus 0.1 for November and October. That's a miss. Personal income month over month for October, 0.1 versus 0.3. That's a miss. Personal spending month over month November, 0.5 versus 0.4. That's a beat. Core PCE price index month over month October, 0.2 versus 0.1. That's a miss. 2.8 versus 2.8. So we came in line on core PCE index year over year November. Core PCE index year over year October, 2.7 versus 2.8. S&P is down, not down that much. And then price index year over year, October 2.7 versus 2.7. That's a in line. And then November 2.8 versus 2.8. That's in line as well. I mean, you're not seeing a massive change in the data. The biggest thing that we cared about was this one, core PCE price index year over year November. Street wanted 2.8. We came in at 2.8. That's kind of a nothing burger, to be honest. I mean, all of these are nothing. S&P is down like 20 cents. I mean, we went red across a variety of names, but it's not like a completely bloodbath red. Okay, that's your data. Yeah, I mean, this stuff is old. That's also fair. This is all October, November. This is not December's data. Now, granted, we needed October's and November's data inevitably because we still have to put those in the calculations, but not really having a major impact. I'm using Trading Economics. That's the website. All right, so that was a bit anticlimactic. I mean, if those numbers were way worse than expected or better than expected, then obviously that would change stuff, but you're not necessarily seeing that right now. Let's get a little bit more coverage. I was just like, okay, cool. That's the data, I guess.
From Saudi Arabia, but notably absent and have not accepted yet leaders from most of the European countries, from China, from Russia, and other major powers.
You guys can't hear it? No, you should be able to hear it.
During the speech, and it wasn't just about Greenland.
I'll fix my mic in a second.
It was barely mentioned today. During the speech, President Trump did talk a lot about the foreign policy wins and also some of the deals in the works, including making news on Iran, where he says leaders there want to talk and will talk. He talked to, of course, our colleague Joe Kernan about Iran, about the tariffs that are on, those secondary tariffs, and where things stand. Listen.
Those tariffs are still on, including China. Has China responded to
sanctions?
25% for anyone who does business
correct
with Iran, and that will go forward.
Yeah, that's going forward.
That will go forward. There are assets moving into the Gulf, obviously carriers and other things. So a lot of people are wondering whether that's a prelude to further action.
Well, we hope there's not going to be further action.
Steve Witkoff, his special envoy, did talk to me about the potential for a deal in Iran where it could involve nuclear, could involve missiles, and that they have to get in line. Again, the president and Witkoff threatening Iran that if they didn't do it, it would be trouble for them. The president also talked about Russia-Ukraine war and sounded a note of optimism, saying the war could end, quote, pretty soon. And I talked to Witkoff about this because he's going today from here to Moscow for negotiations.
Our 20-point plan, and we're massaging it and harmonizing it. And I think we're down to land deals now. That's been the 800-pound elephant in the room.
Yep.
And I think we have some very, very good ideas around that, and hopefully we'll be able to make some progress there.
And President Putin, you think we'll get there?
I do.
Why? What gives you that confidence?
Well, look, we have to go meet him on Thursday, but it's the Russians who are asking for that meeting. I think that's a significant statement on their part. And I think everybody, I just sense that everybody wants a peace there, that it's time.
So really updates on all the conflicts and potential deals that the Trump administration is working on, guys. As you know, he was joined here by a very large delegation, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, who's also negotiating some of these peace deals, a number of cabinet secretaries, including the Treasury Secretary, the Commerce Secretary, who we've all heard from on CNBC in recent days, the Energy Secretary as well. Dr. Oz was here talking about healthcare policy. And overall, you know, besides just all the attention and buzz that the president created and a huge security nightmare getting around here, I have to say, you know, some of the reaction and the talks are behind the scenes, especially from the Europeans, is on, you know, the appeal of U.S. assets. And it's unclear ultimately whether this is just chatter or whether we'll actually see some action. But, you know, people are paying attention to gold. They're paying attention to treasuries, which have sold off recently along with stocks, and wondering about the appeal of U.S. assets now that we have this sort of more confrontational and, according to some Europeans, more insulting kind of foreign policy with President Trump here in Davos this week.
Of course, the question always becomes, okay, where are you going to go? If you're going to pull some assets or start selling treasuries, where are you going to put the money, Sarah?
Yeah, I think there's a reason that gold and silver prices go up every single day. It's more about diversification than where you're going to.
Again, the only place you really can put it is gold and silver if you're trying to get a return. But those aren't necessarily safe. Now, gold and silver long-term are safe, but if they have a local top, like the 10-year is not giving you a local top. If you get that 4.2%, you're booked for 4.2%. So I don't really believe the argument that we're going to dump U.S. Treasuries and rotate to gold. Some of it will rotate to gold, but the far majority of it needs a yield. And that yield is not just going to easily come from gold. BABA right there, that's up 6%. Lemonade's up 9%. All right, so the data was a nothing burger. We didn't get anything from the data. Market didn't really care about it, not reacting to it. I mean, it was October and November data. It wasn't December data. So as a result, you're not getting something in the market that's going to react to in almost real time. December is the latest. I think we get December PCE next month or towards the end of January. But at least October, November is not horrible. Bitcoin right there continuing to go down, 89,000. I don't understand why Celestica is getting hit as bad, 10% down, but it is getting hit. I don't see a single headline for Celestica or Arista on why that's moving up. Arista up 11%, Celestica down 11%. And then crypto is crypto. Bitcoin continues to just disappoint. It's crazy because this thing was hovering 95 before the Trump Greenland thing. And now the Trump Greenland thing is reversed. It's not that big of a deal anymore. And still, it's not really making the move higher. Apple right there, 249. App loving, my good. Just take her below 500 at this point. Why not? Might as well take her to summer prices at this point. Why is Palantir moving like this? What is going on? Palantir has a variety of different issues with it right now. I think number one is you have a lot of upgrades that are bullish, but the street doesn't know if they're going to continue the growth that they've put up. Number two, you have a valuation that's very aggressive in a world in which high valuations are not necessarily being rewarded unless your market cap is not as high. Like high valuations on like a $10, $15 billion market cap is being rewarded if you're in the right theme. Palantir is a $400 billion market cap with a very high valuation, and you know it might not be that easy for it to gap back up. Also, you know, Palantir kind of trades with NVIDIA, and NVIDIA's been stuck, and it makes sense why Palantir. I mean, these two names are pegged together in various different buckets of the market. Definitely, I think a bunch of algos trade them together. So I kind of think until NVIDIA gets moved, Palantir might not get a move. Now, Palantir can put up some massive growth on earnings, and that could be the move. But same thing with Hood, right? It's just like these are very mature companies that this moment in time might not be their moment where they just continue gapping up like they did last year because they're just bigger now. And they have to put up a lot more growth. Thoughts on Nebius? I continue to believe Nebius is the best, in my opinion, data center play. It's the most diversified, gives you the most optionality. Management is A1. But once again, you can't get super high when this goes up and you can't cry when it goes down. Like these are vault. Same thing with Iren. Same thing with CoreWeave, although that's been holding on to the 90s a lot better. I mean, a lot of these names, none of the core arguments on any of these names, Hood, Palantir, Nebius, have changed. It's just the market cares more about Bloom Energy. And it's like, all right, if that's what the market cares about, that's what the market cares about. You have to ask yourself, do you care about Bloom Energy more than some of those bigger convictions? Salesforce right there, 223, as that one's up a little bit. Why won't it go up forever? Yeah. It's not easy for them to just go up forever. But I think we do have to acknowledge that too. Some of these names have just, past 3 years, they've done nothing but go up. I mean, if Palantir goes red today, it will be the first time in, I think in almost 4 years where it's had 4 consecutive red days in a row. Like Palantir has not had a losing red month for a couple of years. I think the last, it was like May of 24 or something, the last time it closed red for the month, something like that. Like it's been on a massive run. And at some point, you know, that chills out a little bit. Same thing with Hood. And that might be what we're seeing right here. Baba right there, 187% on Mr. Alibaba. Where can I find your first video with Stock Talk where he listed his favorite stocks? It was in November. I don't know the name of that video. If anyone has it, you can link it. I think if you just YouTube Amit Stock Talk Amcor, that might pop up. But I don't know the exact name of that video. It was on a market open, that's for sure. Yeah, I'll try to find it and then link it tomorrow. But it was definitely a market open in November, I think, early November. And that's where I went through a lot of his different positions. Reddit, yeah. Why did Reddit get hit yesterday? I didn't see the headline. Reddit 210. This one as well, valuation's up there. But I don't know why they took a fall the way they did. SoFi's earnings next week. That's going to be an important one. January 30th. We're going to see what happens there. It was early December, was it? Okay, it was early December then. Truist reiterated a 270 target on Reddit. Still, this one getting hit. Let's pull up a couple other things. Oh, we got Kevin Hasset. Let's see what he has to say about this Greenland thing. He is likely not going to be the next Fed chair. I mean, the way Trump is talking about him, he wants him to stay as the national economic director. Rick Reeder now has a chance of being the next Fed chair, which would be quite incredible because he was not in the running for a long time. But here's what Hasset had to say earlier today.
About making lots of moves because of the president's tariff threats. That means that their people who study it know that it's not the U.S. consumers that bear it. And if you look
it
at
may just
the
mean that the US
CPI, though,
consumer's not going to buy
that.
from them anymore.
Right.
And that's if you don't have a market to sell into because you've been priced out of that market.
Yeah, they might buy from the U.S. instead, and that's something that we've seen actually, right? That the president brags about the trade deficit going down so much. So it is true that it advantages U.S. producers some. But again, inflation, there were a lot of predictions about inflation going up to the 3s and the 4s because of the tariffs. And the 3-month moving average at annual rate right now is like 1.5.
But it hasn't gone away. And we had Orzag on yesterday, and I mean, he was in the Obama administration, so
he's a good guy.
Take it for what it's worth. But he wants to bet me that it's going to be, that's coming. Tariffs are 4%.
Oh, you should take the bet.
I did. 4% for 2026. 4% for 2026. Because it's embedded somewhere. We just want, it's been a while. And a lot of people have, I don't know, maybe it's been premature. Maybe victory, mission accomplished about inflation has been declared too quickly. But we haven't seen it yet. Not very much anyway.
Well, I mean, again, we've got data that have been very promising lately. But Peter Orzag, who's a great economist, is right that you need to see a lot more months of that before you really believe that you've killed the monster.
I was just going to on the tariff piece, though. You know, Christine Lagarde mentioned yesterday to me on a panel, and then also Ken Griffin also talked about how it was a regressive tax on the American consumer, and actually cited a new study. I don't know if you saw that study.
We've all seen it.
You've seen the
96 cents paid for, but yeah.
96 cents paid for by the American consumer.
Right. And that companies didn't eat it, foreign countries didn't eat it, that it So the same people that don't like it are the same people that want to raise taxes.
All I'm saying is that real wages are up. They were down under Biden. The real wage is the W divided by the P. The P includes the tariff. And so wages are going up more than the cost of buying stuff. And that's exactly President Trump's point. So it's in the data.
But what I'm just curious, you saw that study?
I've seen 3 or 4 NBER studies. Is this the one you're talking about?
I think one of them was, it just literally just came out about the 96 cents. And whether you think that's...
But these are the guys who have been modeling that we're going to have runaway inflation, that we're going to have stagflation and so on. So the economic models don't account for things like what we're talking about, like the fact that for geopolitical reasons, countries decide that they want to capture a big chunk of the U.S. market, so they have leverage over us, like the rare earths. So where in that paper is the rare earth being modeled?
What I gleaned from it and talked to the Treasury Secretary about it was that the thrust was that the countries and the companies abroad that were exporting here have gone to other places. They didn't eat the tariffs by continuing to sell to the United States. They went elsewhere. But if you think about what that means that the domestic supply chain, that it is changing behavior, which is what the end.
But again, like in the end, the final score, right, is what's in the data. And I think one of the reasons why there's some, like, I don't know if you saw the interaction between Lutnick yesterday and Al Gore, but the ideologues in this space are really, really upset that the tariff policies are working, because the data are, in the end, it depends on the final score. The final score really is what happens to the real wage of ordinary Americans. And it went up a lot under President Trump before, and he introduced tariffs, and it's going up a lot now.
By the way, we were not...
I mean, this is what even JPEG had to acknowledge, which is that tariffs were not as inflationary as people thought. And ultimately, we're going to have to see if that ends up playing through in the data. I didn't see this Lutnick Al Gore thing that happened. Oh, wow. I'm reading about it right now. One of the hecklers was Al Gore, the former U.S. vice president, according to 2 executives that were present at Davos. The U.S. Commerce Department said only one person booed, and it was Al Gore. Al Gore was heckling Lutnick during a speech. I wish we had a video of that. That's crazy. Meta right there, 633. Al Gore, yes, the inventor of the internet. You guys have all seen that clip, right? He claims he invented the internet. I mean, maybe he did. Maybe he was the inventor of the internet. I think this is the clip right here. It's from like 16 years ago.
Instead of Bill Bradley, a friend of yours, a former colleague in the Senate, what do you have to bring to this that he doesn't necessarily bring to this project?
Well, I'll be offering my vision when my campaign begins. It'll be comprehensive and sweeping, and I hope that it'll be compelling enough to draw people toward it. I feel that it will be, but it will emerge from my dialogue with the American people. I've traveled to every part of this country during the last 6 years. During my service in the United States Congress, I took the initiative in creating the internet. I took the initiative in moving forward a whole range of initiatives that have proven to be important to our country's economic growth.
Dude made the internet, bro. He made the internet. So that's what you got. My uncle says your grandmother is very happy seeing you live and wearing the ring. He is in India with my grandma. So Nani Ji, still wearing the ring every day. I love it. Thank you for watching the show. Dude, what time is it for you guys in India? Must be kind of late now, right? 8:50. Okay, it's not too late. 8:50 p.m. I wear it every day. My grandma and grandpa got me this ring in the summer. So thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you guys watching. I know my uncle needs to watch because he's got money that he's trying to figure out where to put. But happy I'm on the big screen there. S&P 500 right there. Still up 687, although down from 690. And Meta at 635. Is your uncle coming to the meetup? So he's not coming to the New York meetup, but we are more likely than not doing the Singapore meetup. I think a lot of you guys said April. So I think April is what we're going to plan for. I know that's not that far away, but given he's in Singapore, it's also not going to be that hard to plan it, to be honest. So I think in a week or two, we should have details on that. In Singapore, we are officially making it. Is your uncle still in silver? No, but he is in copper heavily. Also, the other thing he's getting interested in, which I'm sure a lot of you guys have been thinking about as well, is uranium. Uranium is another one of those things when you think about nuclear energy that continues to, I mean, it's already gotten a decent bid. URA is the global ETF for uranium. That stock, that stock's up 22% year to date. So he's very heavily invested with his time and money in commodities. And uranium and copper, I think, are two of his big bets right now. COPX is the copper stock he's in. That's the copper miner ETF. That one has Fremont and all the big ones. Jason's starting to like FCX as well. Again, I almost bought that thing at $40, but I wish I did. LEU, yep, that's another one for uranium. UEC, 52-week highs, makes sense. There's a bunch of articles I saw last night about uranium. I mean, if we need more energy, the raw materials to make that energy happen, you're probably going to get some of those names catch a bid. I just think, at least for me, I've been so concerned with tech stocks over the past couple of years that the commodity part of the story has not been a big part of my deep dives. But if tech stocks are going to take a breather or maybe not just explode the way they have over the past couple of years, you got to look at other parts of the market. And that's where silver, copper, uranium, palladium, all this stuff becomes a bit more interesting. Oh, they had earnings this morning, FCX. Freeport, they're down 2%. $85 billion market cap, dude. This thing year to date, I think, is up a lot as well. Try to see some of their earnings. Year to date, it is up 15%. Over the past year, it's up 52% in the copper space. Let me know when your uncle starts buying Bitcoin. You know, he likes Ethereum. And I think all of us kind of, when Ethereum, it was what, 3,000 in October? Or that was September? Or no, that was August. No, August was like 4,000. But basically when Ethereum was really starting to get more mainstream 7-8 months ago, a lot of us got into it. Fortunately, it's done nothing. Ethereum below 3,000 right here. But also Bitcoin's done nothing. So like, you know, they kind of move in tandem with each other. Even if the bull arguments are heavy for ETH. ASML hit all-time highs today. Did they? This one got hit yesterday. Wow, ASML, yeah, there you go. Up another 2%. Yeah, I'll show Elon speaking at Davos. I don't know if it starts exactly at 10:30, but if he's there, then we'll watch it. Google reportedly snags up team behind AI voice startup Hume AI. Okay, there you go. Google continues to make acquisitions. Does he like Mr. Beast? Well, he's not the happiest with BM&R. But then again, who the hell is happy with BM&R right now? Again, it's like, I don't even want to give Tom a lot of shit for this. It's just Ethereum tanked, the BM&R tanked. It's just that simple. Now, the communication of BM&R has not really been, I think, the best over the past couple months. But at the end of the day, like, it's an asset leveraged towards ETH. Crypto tanked. We're not in a crypto winter yet. At least I don't think so. So, of course, BM&R, Hood, MicroStrategy, Coinbase, they're all getting hit. And until we get out of this funk that crypto's in, you know, these names are not necessarily in favor. But Tom was a mega bull on ETH. Yeah, I think the problem is, I see his bull case on ETH, I still think it's very valid. Like when you actually read all fund strats and research, like it makes a lot of sense. The problem was the timing. And unfortunately in the stock market, like your thesis could be amazing, but if your timing is off, you look bad. And that's just universally across the board. And there's nothing you can do about it, right? Like if you buy it at the wrong time, like whoever had a great Amazon thesis in March of 2000 ended up seeing a 95% drawdown. Now, they ended up being right in the long term, but in the short term, it hurts. I think he will be very right on ETH in the long term, just based on all the data we've seen about all the different financial institutions converging on it. But if crypto's hit, then crypto's hit. I don't think the Clarity Act is going to do anything, dude. Like, I don't think this is a legislative issue. it would help a little bit, but I don't think that's getting ETH back up to 5,000, Bitcoin back to 120. Like, I think you need Zeta, by the way, moving above 21. I think you need like a sentiment, not even a sentiment, like I want to say liquidity, but I don't think it's a liquidity. I think there has to be something deeper going on that's stopping people from allocating to these assets. And I think it's because they think they're too risky and gold and silver aren't. And until that narrative flips where like the dollar is riskier, gold is riskier than having a Bitcoin, which is what it felt like in the beginning part of 2025, then I don't know when that officially flips up. What do you think about SMCI? Margins are not the best on SMCI. This one's been making a move though, the past couple of days, 31 to 34, which is not too bad. Yeah, were Sam and Vitalik at the BMNR thing? Because I didn't see any clips about that. I did not see Sam and Vitalik at this freaking conference. So, I mean, if anyone has any clips of that, I feel like I would have seen it by now, but I didn't. Yeah, tax loss time frame needs to end. That's also a good point. I mean, a lot of people that tax loss harvested on December 31st, you have until January 30th for you to buy, right? That is a very good point. Like until people can start buying the stuff they sold again, I mean, a lot of these assets can't get bid up by those same people. They weren't there, right? Yeah. Why? Well, didn't the press release say Sam Altman and Vitalik are going to be there? I thought they were doing like a full keynote with those guys. I was like, that'll be great content. But I did not see that. Fear and greed down to 53. Okay. Is Elon actually doing this Davos thing? Let me see. Elon Davos. Are we actually getting him? Oh, yeah. Elon Musk attends panel with Larry Fink. All right. So it was live. I'll pull it up. We'll see. Chris Camillo doubled down on TAC. I haven't heard his TAC thesis, Trans-Atlanta. This is a company in Alberta, if I'm not wrong. But Alberta energy prices have been going higher. Or no, they've been going lower, right? Because Canada's been a little bit more warm. Actually, I could have said more warmer, but I stopped myself. I'm learning. But it's been a little bit more warm this winter, which I think has affected TAC a bit. The stock was 18, now it's back at $12. But BE is up 50%, which has been amazing for Camilla. Dude, it was cold as hell in New York yesterday. Like I'm used to the cold. I'm not used to like Chicago cold, but like yesterday it was cold. Even I was like, man, that's freezing. Bitcoin right there continues to go down, 88.6. And so I imagine what it's like in Canada. It's green in California, or it's sunny in California. You know, I love California. I've been to California many times. I don't know if I could live there. I still feel like I need the changing of the seasons. Although if you live in North California, you basically get a little bit of a winter. It's not like 20 degrees, but you'll get like definitely 40, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Did you ever look at Enphase? Looked at Enphase a long time ago. I don't know why this is pumping. Like, I'll try to see if there's a headline. Enphase solar panels, I don't think are the most important thing right now based on a lot of different regulatory frameworks that we have. Even the big, beautiful bill was not the friendliest to solar. But if the market's like, we need a ton of AI, Goldman upgraded them 2 days ago. Maybe that's why they're getting some love. Goldman said $45. We upgrade Enphase to a buy. Our buy thesis comes after upgrading the company to neutral in December. We believe confidence in these growth opportunities has improved. Dude, Goldman is saying nothing. Saying literally nothing. We believe Enphase will enter 2026 with momentum. Oh, there's a tax credit that they're citing. 25D tax credit expiration might help increase growth. I don't know, dude. Solar has been not friendly to people over the past 2 years. So I would have to do some real due diligence to see if that one's worth the bet. Robinhood right there, 105. Nvidia, 184.75. Yes, we will be streaming Elon. We're gonna wait. Oh, it's 10:30. All right, let's see. It might not start exactly at 10:30. Yeah, he's not live yet. Once it's live, I'll flip over. But it's not there yet. Here's Dallio in Davos and continuing to make his argument about why people are diversifying from the dollar.
Performance, but underperformed the rest of the world. And you're seeing a shift in the assets held, particularly, let's talk about money. In other words, when you look at the gold being up 67%, it's not a precious metal that goes up 60%. It was bought by central banks, particularly, but others, in order to diversify fiat currencies, not just dollars, okay? It also has to do with euros and so on. Fiat currencies, which are essentially debt instruments that get monetized, were the big move of last year. The biggest move, bigger than tech stocks, bigger, that was the biggest move.
What historical parallels are you seeing and worrying about right now?
Well, the similar breakdowns of the monetary system, if we're talking about the shifting to gold. There was a breakdown in 1971. Let's go to the monetary system. 1944, we say, what is our system of money? And it was gold, connections to the dollar.
Elon is live, and he's there in person.
Standings, and also resolution. So it's an important component of who we and what we are, and I'm thrilled to have Elon Musk here. He came all the way from California to be here to see all of you. So thank you, Elon.
You're most welcome.
I
mean, I heard about the formation of the Peace Summit, and I was like, is that PIEC? You know, a little piece of Greenland, a little piece of Venezuela.
we got one.
All we want is peace.
Okay, I'm going to, as I said, I'm a pretty proud CEO of BlackRock since we went public. The compounding return of BlackRock to our shareholders was 21%. Since Elon took Tesla public, his compounded return is 43%. This is just another advertisement for everybody, especially for Europeans. This is why more citizens should be investing with growth, investing with their countries. Imagine if a lot of pension funds invested with Elon when Tesla went public, and how much return would all the pension funds that invested side by side with Elon and the growth. So a spectacular return. There's very few companies. Well, I don't think there's any other company as large as Tesla today that has that compounded return. So congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
It's a good measurement.
Well, we have an incredible team at Tesla, and that's the reason.
So I want to get into the dirt, the meaningful component about technology, the possibilities. I want to talk about AI and robotics, energy, space, and the progress ultimately coming down to engineering discipline, scale, execution. And few people, if not anyone, has the experience and the fortitude to confront these issues head on. Not just the ideas, but the execution across so many different technologies, Elon. And that's why I thought it was important for us to have this dialogue here in Davos. So you're presently building on AI, on robotics, on space, on energy, all at the same time. When you look across those efforts, what do they have in common from an engineering standpoint?
Well, they're all very difficult technology challenges, but the overall goal of my companies is to maximize the future of civilization, like basically maximize the probability that civilization has a great future, and to expand consciousness beyond Earth. So take SpaceX, for example, that SpaceX is about advancing rocket technology to the point where we can extend life and consciousness beyond Earth to the moon, to Mars, eventually to other star systems. And I think we should always view consciousness, life as we know it, as precarious and delicate, because to the best of our knowledge, we don't know of life anywhere else. You know, I'm often asked, are there aliens among us? And I'll say that I am one, but
or you're from the future.
They don't believe me.
Okay.
But I think if anyone would know if there are aliens among us, it would be me. We have 9,000 satellites up there, and not once have we had to maneuver around an alien spaceship. So I'm like, I don't know. Bottom line is, I think we need to assume that life and consciousness is extremely rare, and it might only be us. And if that's the case, then we need to do everything possible to ensure that the light of consciousness is not extinguished, because we're effectively, the way I view it is, the image in my mind is of a tiny candle in a vast darkness, a tiny candle of consciousness that could easily go out. And that's why it's important to make life multiplanetary, such that if there is a natural disaster or a man-made disaster on Earth, that consciousness continues. That's the purpose of SpaceX. Tesla is obviously about sustainable technology, and also at this point we've sort of added to our mission sustainable abundance. So with robotics and AI, this is really the path to abundance for all. If you say, you know, people often talk about solving global poverty, or essentially how do we give everyone a very high standard of living. I think the only way to do this is AI and robotics, which doesn't mean that it is without its issues. I mean, we need to be very careful with AI. We need to be very careful with robotics. We don't want to find ourselves in a James Cameron movie, you know, Terminator. He's great movies, love his movies, but we don't want to be in Terminator, obviously. If you have ubiquitous AI that is essentially free or close to it, and ubiquitous robotics, then you will have an explosion in the global economy, an expansion in the global economy that is truly beyond all precedent.
Elon, can that expansion be broad?
Yes.
Or is it narrow? And how can that be created? How can it broaden the global economy?
Yeah, I mean, the way to think of it is that if you have a large number of humanoid robots, the economic output is the average productivity per robot times the number of robots.
Right.
And actually, my prediction is in the benign scenario of the future that the robots will actually make so many robots in AI that they will actually saturate all human needs. Meaning you won't be able to even think of something to ask the robot for at a certain point. Like there will be such an abundance of goods and services, because my prediction is that there'll be more robots than people. So,
but how do you then have human purpose in that scenario?
Yeah, I mean, you know, nothing's perfect, you know. But I mean, it is a necessary. Like, you can't have both. You can't have work that has to be done and amazing abundance for all. Because if it's work that has to be done, then you and only some people can do it, then you can't have abundance.
Then
for
it's
all.
narrow.
It's narrow,
Yeah.
exactly. So, but if you have billions of humanoid robots, and I think there will be, I think everyone on Earth is going to have one and going to want one, because who wouldn't want a robot to, assuming it's very safe, watch over your kids, take care of your pet. If you have elderly parents, a lot of friends of mine have said they have elderly parents. It's very difficult to take care of them.
Expensive.
Yeah, it's expensive, and there just aren't enough people to take care of there aren't enough young people to take care of the old people.
Right.
So if you had a robot that could take care of and protect an elderly parent, I think that would be great. That would be an amazing thing to have. I think we will have those things. So, overall, I'm very optimistic about the future. I think we're headed for a future of amazing abundance, which is very cool. And definitely, we are in the most interesting time in history. I think there's a more interesting time in history.
Can you and I reverse aging in this new history, or are we going to see it?
I haven't put much time into the aging stuff. I do think it is a very solvable problem. Like you can. I think when we figure out what causes aging, I think we'll find it's incredibly obvious. It's not a subtle thing. The reason I say it's not a subtle thing is because all the cells in your body, with some pretty much age at the same rate. I've never seen someone with an old left arm and a young right arm ever in my life. So why is that? That means that there must be a clock, a synchronizing clock,
right,
that is synchronizing across 35 trillion cells in your body. There is some benefit to death, by the way. It's like there's a reason why we don't actually have a longer lifespan, because if people do live forever for a very long time, I think there's some risk of an ossification of society, of things just getting kind of locked in place, it just may become stultifying, just not lack vibrancy. But that said, do I think we'll figure out ways to extend life and maybe even reverse aging? I think that's highly likely.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So in the future that you talk about, the AI models, autonomous machines, rockets, depends on massive increases in compute, massive increases in energy, expensive energy, manufacturing scale. What are the bottlenecks to get there? And that, once again, with all that expenditures, again, how can we make sure that it's broad and not narrow?
I just think the natural thing is it's going to be very broad, because AI companies will seek as many customers as they possibly can, and the cost of AI is already very low, and it's plummeting every year. I mean, the cost of AI is almost meaningfully changing on a month-to-month basis.
There's open models now everywhere. Yeah.
Yes, there's open models. And the open models only lag. They're maybe a year behind,
right,
the sort of closed models. So I think the AI companies will seek as many customers as possible, which means they'll provide AI to the world.
But the cost of getting to there, the compute, the chips, the fab, the powering, that to me, what are the those are huge.
The limiting factor. Yeah, I think the limiting factor for AI deployment is fundamentally electrical power.
It's just right. It's energy.
Yeah. I mean, we're seeing the rate of AI chip production increase exponentially, but the rate of electricity being brought online is
3%, 4% a year, max.
Yeah, it's clear that we're very soon, maybe even later this year, we'll be producing more chips than we can turn on. But except for China. China's growth in electricity is tremendous.
They're building 100 gigawatts of nuclear as we speak.
Actually, solar is the biggest thing in China. So I believe China's production capacity on solar is 1,500 gigawatts a year, and they're deploying over 1,000 gigawatts a year of solar. Now, for continuous solar load, you divide that by roughly, I don't know, 4 or 5. Call it that's around 250 gigawatts of steady state power paired with batteries. And that's a very big number. That's half of the average power usage in the US.
Right.
So US power usage on average is 500 gigawatts. China, just in solar, just in solar like that can provide steady state power and batteries, can do half of the US electricity output per year just with solar. Solar is by far the biggest source of energy. And actually, when you look beyond, or even on Earth, but certainly beyond Earth, the sun rounds up to 100% of all energy. This is an important thing to consider. So the sun is 99.8% of the mass of the solar system. Jupiter is about 0.1%, and everything else is miscellaneous. Now, even if you were to burn Jupiter in a thermonuclear reactor, the amount of energy produced by the sun would still round up to 100%, because Jupiter is only 0.1%. If you teleported 3 more Jupiters into our solar system, and burnt 3 more Jupiters and everything else in the solar system, the sun's energy would still round up to 100%. So it's really all about the sun. And that's why one of the things we'll be doing with SpaceX within a few years is launching solar-powered AI satellites.
Right.
Because the space is really the source of immense power, and then you don't need to take up any room on Earth. There's so much room in space, and you can scale to enormous. I mean, you can scale to, I think, ultimately hundreds of terawatts a year.
You and I have had these conversations before, but why don't you tell the audience, what would it take for the United States, and what type of geography would it take to have that solar field to electrify the United States? And then let me ask a question, why aren't we doing it?
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess a rough way to think about it is 100 miles by 100 miles, or call it, I don't know, 160 kilometers by 160 kilometers of solar is enough to power the entire United States. So the 100 mile by 100 mile area is, I mean, you could take basically a small corner of Utah, Nevada, New Mexico. Obviously, you wouldn't want it all in one place, but it is a very small percentage of the area of the U.S. to generate all of the electricity that the U.S. uses. And the same is true, actually, I mean, for Europe. You could take a small, you could take relatively unpopulated areas of, say, Spain and Sicily, and generate all of the electricity power that Europe needs.
So why don't you think that there's a movement towards that here and in the United States?
Well, there is.
As it is in China.
Well, unfortunately, in the U.S., the tariff barriers for solar are extremely high, and that makes the economics of deploying solar so artificially high, because China makes almost all the solar,
What would it take for Europe or the U.S. to build it commercially, if it's that scale?
Yeah, I think. Well, I can tell you what we're going to do. You know, SpaceX and Tesla is we're building up large-scale solar.
Right.
So the SpaceX and Tesla teams both separately are working to build to 100 gigawatts a year of solar power in the U.S. of manufactured solar power, and that'll probably take us, I don't know, about 3 years or something. But these are pretty big numbers, and you know, I'd encourage others to do the same. We obviously don't control the U.S. Tariff policy. But for other countries, I would recommend that China makes solar cells that are incredibly low cost, and I think it would be worth doing large scale solar.
So I know you're going to be having a couple of big announcements on robotics and what it can do. I mean, when I went to the factory, you showed me those robots.
Yeah.
How quickly, you talked about the billions of robots, but how quickly can they be deployed in a manufacturing setting? How quickly can they be utilized and be functional and create that abundance that you talked about?
Well, humanoid robotics will advance very quickly. I think we do have some of the Tesla Optimus robots doing simple tasks in the factory. We expect probably later this year. By the end of this year, I think they'll be doing more complex tasks, but still deployed in an industrial environment. And probably sometime next year, I'd say that by the end of next year, I think would be selling humanoid robots to the public. That's when we are confident that it's very high reliability, very high safety, and the range of functionality is also very high. You can basically ask it to do anything you'd like.
You're already seeing that in Tesla cars. The software changes that you're doing, and what is it? Every quarter now, a software change that upgrades the ability of the robot within the car.
Yes, the Tesla full self-driving software, we update it sometimes once a week. Recently, some of the insurance companies have said that it is actually so safe, when Tesla full self-driving is so safe that they're offering customers half-price insurance if they use Tesla full self-driving in their car.
And that can be monitored by the insurance company? Is that part of the agreement then?
Yeah. I think self-driving cars is essentially a solved problem at this point.
Right.
And Tesla's rolled out sort of robo-taxi service in a few cities, and
right.
Will I think be very, very widespread by the end of this year within the U.S. And then we hope to get supervised full self-driving approval in Europe hopefully next month.
Really that quickly?
Yeah, and then maybe a similar timing for China, hopefully.
I want to move to space because historically space is very capital intensive. It historically been done by governments. Obviously, SpaceX changed the whole model. But we've seen it slow to scale, and now I'm starting to see it ramping up in what you're doing and other things. Talk to us about the automation and AI, how it's changing the economics in building and preparing for us in operating in space.
Sure. Well, the key breakthrough the major breakthrough that SpaceX is hoping to achieve this year is full reusability. So no one has ever achieved full reusability of a rocket, which is very important for the cost of access to space. We've achieved partial reusability with Falcon 9 by landing the boost stage. We've now landed the boost stage over 500 times. But we have to throw away the upper stage. The upper stage sort of burns up on reentry for Falcon 9. So, and the cost of that is equivalent to a small to medium-sized jet. So, but with Starship, which is a giant rocket, it's the largest flying machine ever made.
That's a rocket that you're using for the idea of going to Mars, right?
Yeah, Mars and the Moon, as well as for high-volume satellite stuff. So, Starship. Hopefully this year we should prove full reusability for Starship, which will be a profound invention because the cost of access to space will drop by a factor of 100. when you achieve full reusability.
Right.
It's the same sort of economic difference that you would expect that, between, say, a reusable aircraft and a non-reusable aircraft. Like if you have to throw your aircraft away after every flight, that would be a very expensive flight. But if you only have to refuel, then it's the cost of the fuel. And so that's really the fundamental breakthrough that gets the cost of access to space, we think, below the cost of freight on aircraft. So, you know, under $100 a pound type of thing easily. Wow. So it makes putting large satellites into space very low, very cheap. And then when you have solar in space, you get 5 times more effectiveness, maybe even more than that, than solar on the ground, because it's always sunny.
It's cold. And
It's always sunny, so you don't have a day-night cycle or seasonality or weather, and you get about 30% more power in space because you don't have atmospheric attenuation of the power.
Right.
The net effect is solar is 5 times more. Any given solar panel will do 5 times more energy in space than on the ground.
Is there any capacity in doing that and then taking that power and bringing it back to Earth? Is there any way of doing that, or you're just taking that power and utilizing it for the needs, like building AI data centers in space?
I think the case, it's a no-brainer for building solar-powered AI data centers in space, because as you mentioned, it's also very cold in space. If you're in the shadow, then it's very cold in space, just 3 degrees Kelvin. So you just have solar panels facing the sun, and then a radiator that's pointed away from the sun, so it has no sun incidence, and then it's just cooling. It's a very efficient cooling system. So net effect is that the lowest cost place to put AI will be space, and that'll be true within 2 years. Maybe three at the latest.
Wow. So looking 10 or 20 years out, how would you describe success with AI or space technology, and where do you see it? Are you more certain what's going to happen in the next 3 years or 5 or 10?
I don't know what's going to happen in 10 years, but the rate at which AI is progressing, I think we might have AI that is smarter than any human by the end of this year, and I would say no later than next year.
Wow.
And then probably by 2030 or 2031, call it 5 years from now, AI will be smarter than all of humanity collectively.
We only have a number of minutes left, but I want to humanize you for a second. So there's no speculation that you're
about peace.
Right. I want to, I would frame this question by, you're the most successful entrepreneur, industrialist in the 21st century, maybe beyond. I want to really get this, what inspired you? Who's inspired you? What was the foundation of your curiosity? And importantly, was there an aha moment, an epiphany at any time in your life and career?
Well, as a kid, I read a lot of science fiction, sci-fi, fantasy books.
Yeah, we talked about that.
And comic books, and I always liked technology. I didn't expect to be where I am today. That seems incredibly implausible. But I was inspired by reading about books about the future, about science fiction, and I guess I want to make science fiction not fiction forever. At some point, turn science fiction to science fact, we want to have like Starfleet and Star Trek, really for real, like where we actually have giant spaceships traveling through space, going to other planets, traveling to other star systems.
I'm just interested if I could be beamed up to go back to New York. I'd like to just be beamed back to New York instead of flying.
Yeah.
Talking about Star Trek.
No, I guess my essential, what I would call the philosophy of curiosity. I'd like to understand the meaning of life. You know, is the standard model of physics correct regarding the beginning of life, beginning of existence, and the end of the universe? What questions do we not know to ask that we should ask? And AI will help us with these things. So I'm just trying to understand, how do we get here? What's going on? What's real? Are there aliens? Maybe there are. And if we've got spaceships that are traveling to other star systems, we may encounter aliens, or we may find many long dead alien civilizations. But I just want to know what's going on. I'm curious about the universe, and that's my philosophy.
Do you see yourself ever going to Mars in your lifetime?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like,
that's a long commitment.
I've been asked.
Isn't that 3 years each way?
It's 6 months.
6 months. That's all it is.
Yeah, 6 months. But the planets only align every 2 years.
Okay.
So, yeah, I've been asked a few times, like, do I want to, die on Mars? And I'm like, yes, but just not on impact.
That's a good answer. Anyway, we're out of time. Hopefully everybody enjoyed this. I mean, there's so many myths around Elon Musk. I could tell you he's a great friend, and I constantly learn so much from him. And I'm totally inspired by what he has done. I've been inspired who he is, and I'm totally inspired by his vision of the future. And I don't think it's such a bad future. And I agree with his optimism. So, Elon, thank you. Any last words?
Well, I think my last words would be, I would encourage everyone to be optimistic and excited about the future.
Good.
And generally, I think for quality of life, it is actually better to err on the side of being an optimist and wrong rather than a pessimist and right.
On that note,
all right, that was Mr. Elon Musk. A lot of the core concepts that he's been talking about for a while, he ended up bringing up right there. A lot of this data center and space stuff has been getting some airtime. The idea of AI becoming incredibly important for humanity, replacing the need to work. He actually talked a lot about solar panels, ironically, and said that Tesla is really working heavy on them, especially potentially space solar panels as well. So I don't think we got anything necessarily new out of that interview that we haven't heard over the past couple of months from Elon, but a lot of more positivity around where AI is going, how it can be instrumental for everyone, and his perspective, which is that it's going to, I guess, decrease the cost of goods so much and increase the abundance factor for humanity that ultimately will be a net positive for everyone else. Meta right there at 635, that's up 3.7%. NVIDIA 185.60. Nebius getting a little bit of a move right here at 98.90. Tesla right there at 436. You are seeing Enphase at 39.11. That's up 8.2%. SMCI at 32.98. Bitmine at 29.02. FCX down 2%. Ethereum 29.46. Reddit up 0.3, and then Robinhood at 106. Again, we don't have any crazy breaking news. Lemonade get a nice little bump. Elon mentioning them 15% on the day. This is only a $7 billion market cap. So once again, these small market cap names with anything fundamental, whether it's their narrative or their actual growth, that is working out for a lot of these names, as we're seeing right here. Tesla at 437, Meta at 636, NVIDIA 185, and then SMCI right there at 33. Greenland Prime Minister, our goal and wish is to continue a peaceful dialogue based on cooperation with respect for our constitutional position, international law, the right to our country. Again, he also did say yesterday that there is some level of negotiation that is needed for this framework for a deal with Greenland. He didn't say there is no deal. He just said there's a lot of negotiation that is needed for a deal. begs the question, what is actually there or not, but hopefully in the coming weeks, we get a lot more data on what ends up happening there. Tesla right there at 437. Here's another headline from SpaceX from the Financial Times. Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and Morgan Stanley will be lining up for the IPO. Maybe it will not have that type of reverse merger thing that Chamath mentioned, but if you do indeed get a SpaceX IPO, then obviously that would be very bullish for a name like ASTS and Rocket Lab. Rocket Lab right there at 83.75, still down 4% on the day. Do we have any other crazy headlines? Google expands AI mode with more personal data integration. Russia says France did not inform Russia about one of the interceptions from a Russian tank. City Research says global growth by 2025 should be 2.9%, 2.8% in 2026, 2027. And then we talked about one of the acquisitions by Google. Also, that video for Stock Talk that people were wondering, I'm putting the link right here in the chat if you want to watch it again. Shout out to Cactus. He found this link. I don't know why Grab's up 4% today. I think it's more so it's just been beaten up over the past couple of days, so that's why it's getting some love. But I don't think there's any fundamental news for why the stock is up 4%. Redwire as well. Oh, is the BitGo? Yeah, the BitGo IPO is today. Yeah, Redwire 18%. Wow. So outside of Rocket Lab, some of these space names, Lunar is up 2% as well, getting some love. The BitGo IPO should be happening in about an hour. I believe that is happening today on Robinhood. You can apply to get access to that IPO. It's a crypto name, so we're going to have to see how the market ultimately interprets it in the crypto ecosystem. All right, that's what we got, folks. I'll be back for the close. We got 3 big earnings on the close. We have Intel, we have Capital One, and we have Intuitive Surgical. So very, very important earnings that we have today in 3 different sectors. We'll take a look at that as we get to the close. And then we end out the week for Friday, which will be the end of the 3rd week for January. And we got 1 more week, and then we're into February. It's been a pretty crazy, monumental, just massive events compounding on each other in January. So it doesn't feel like it's been a fast month, but a lot has absolutely happened in this month. Word of the day. Mellifluous. Mellifluous. Sweet sounding, smooth, and pleasant to hear. His mellifluous voice made even the most boring earnings call feel like a podcast. Perfect for describing someone with a radio voice. Okay. How do you say this word? I think it's mellifluous.
Mellifluous.
Mellifluous. Okay, there's an L with the F. Mellifluous. Hopefully, my voice is sweet sounding and smooth and pleasant to hear as I deliver packages in the news every single day. Perfect for your podcast name. Dude, I got a lot of you guys emailed me yesterday about the different podcast names. I'm not feeling any of them. I'm sorry. I'm just not feeling any of them. Dude, yesterday, Steve, he was texting me some names, and I was like, he said we should name the podcast Overweight. And I'm like, bro, like, he's like, because we're overweight stocks. We're always bullish. I'm like, dude, people are going to think it's a weight loss podcast. Like, we're not naming it Overweight. Then he's like, let's name it Main and Wall, the intersection of the economy, Main Street, and markets, Wall Street. I'm like, no. Main and Wall sounds ridiculous. Then he's like, let's call it Stock Matters. I'm like, all right, you're done. You're done. I'm gonna have to do this shit myself. You're done. Could you believe he said overweight? I'm like, this is gonna be a GLP podcast? Like, what are we talking about here? Overweight. I had to figure this out. But we have a good guest. I think you guys will enjoy the first guest of the pod. It's a professional pod. I got the footage last night. I'm not even trying to hype it up, guys, but it's really nice. Like, it looks really nice. Like, we found a really dope spot in New York to do this at. Amazing quality production. So February 1st. I think you guys will enjoy it. All right, that's it for me. Earnings after the bell. We'll have some important ones. We'll keep going from there. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll see how the market reacts. I mean, so far it's flattish to green, nothing too crazy. The Greenland stuff yesterday and GDP and jobs data today were relatively strong. So hopefully that continues, and then we'll get 3 earnings after the bell. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a great day. We'll see you guys on the market close. Bye, everybody.